Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Naruto joins the Black Bulls. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. As the morning sun rises among the rolling, grassy plains of the land of Kusa, a young man is on top of one of the many hills. The young man's skin is as brownish red as the earth beneath his feet, his hair, as dark as the night sky, usually flowing down his back only ending a bit above his waist, is tied into a ponytail in order to attempt to control it. His face looked to be set in stone, yet seemed to be in complete tranquility. His eyes are hard, but seem to shine and offer a kind of warmth and wisdom not seen in someone so young. As the sun rises and hits the land with its light and warmth, the young man stands as well, rising just as the sun before him. After rising fully to his height, standing at 5 feet 6 inches, the young man took a deep breath as the new day began, yet before he could go deeper into his calmness, a light-sounding screech was heard in the morning sky. Looking above him to see a small falcon circling, a smile made its way onto his face, before a shrill whistle left his lips, calling to the small bird to his arm. The bird dipped into a dive before opening its small wings and slowly flapping onto the dark teen's forearm. The falcon was a magnificent specimen. It was standing a good 9 inches tall and had a 2-foot-long wingspan. It was almost completely gray with a white patch on its breast and huge golden-colored fierce eyes built for seeing distant prey or objects. "Are you clear on the message you are to deliver to him?" the teen asked of the bird of prey. The only response seemed to be the sound of the wind blowing before it calmed once again. "Good. Now go quickly, Horus. Fly to our brother in the land of fire and deliver our message to him." The teen gently rubs the feathers on the bird's breast, "and stay with him until we arrive. Study his habits and how he is treated. I never did like leaving him in that place." Horus, as he is now known, tilts his head towards his partner as though asking a question. The teen laughed. "Yes, I don't see what's wrong with surprising him with a little hello. We do need to get him back for that one prank long ago," he recalls fondly. The young falcon then hops to stand on the young man's index finger, facing away from the human, readying for takeoff. "Now fly, Horus. Let the spirits of the winds and of our people guide you to your destination and our brother light in the maelstrom." The young man brought his hand back only for a second before throwing it forward and launching Horus into the sky. "Fly high, Horus." And with a loud screech, the young falcon took off into the sky, quickly climbing with the thermals, and was soon nothing but a spot in the distance. "Sending our brethren a message so early into the trip, young talent? Or perhaps you are warning him of the trials to come?" an older voice was heard saying. "Oh, Elder White Bull. Good morning, sir." Young Talon bowed to the elder. White Bull was an older man whose skin was darker than the young man in front of him and with skin as tough as leather. His mind was as sharp as Horus's talons, and with but a few words could bring down even the most arrogant of men. His hair, much like Talon's, was just as long, yet instead of completely black, his was white. White Bull was wearing white leather-skinned clothes with a white fur robe draped around his shoulders that he would use on the hunts and on the really cold nights. It was said that Elder White Bull's white furred robe and leather came from a huge white buffalo that he had single-handedly taken down with his spear after the bull had gorged his horse, Swift Tails, during one of his trials when he was a younger man. White Bull let loose a small laugh at the young male. "Good morning to you as well, Talon. While I applaud you for letting your brother and his village know of our soon-to-be arrival, but we must gather ourselves and meet up with the other tribes before we set out for the land of fire." Shaking his head good-naturedly as the young man blushed at being reminded of his unfinished duties. "Yes, Elder, I shall return to camp and help the others prepare themselves for the journey through the land of rain to the border between sand and fire country. Though if I may ask, Elder," getting the nod to continue, Talon sheepishly looked up at the old man, "exactly which of the tribes of sand are we to meet up with?" "Ha ha ha. Why, it is our old friends the Medjai, young warrior. The only tribe that is as old and is set in their ways as our own people." White Bull exclaimed with glee, "And it is not just any Medjai tribe but the one that we are both familiar with. Ardith Bay's tribe. Ha, it has been so long since I've seen that tall cactus in the desert." Talon smiled, remembering his longtime friend. "The very same child. Now about your message to young Light in Maelstrom?" White Bull questioned the young teen. "Did you remind him to tell the Hokage, Inuzuka, and Nara clans as well of our arrival? It would not look well upon yourself if the proper requirements are not met when we arrive, would it?" Talon gulped as his brain reworded White Bull's message, "No honorable elder." I informed Horus to say that he also has messages for the Fire Shadow and the two clans. Horus has not failed our brethren yet, sir. And the two clans will heed our calls to provide for us when we arrive. They will honor the pacts they made with us long ago. Good job, my boy. I am happy to know that our tribes will be taken care of. It warms and eases this old warrior's heart a bit. White Bull replied. Now back to the tipis with you, young one. We must prepare for the long journey ahead of ourselves. Yes, elder. And with a bow to the old man, Talon quickly left his side to help with the preparations to the prayers between sand and fire. You will make a great leader yet, boy, just like your two brothers of different tribes, White Bull thought. I just hope you are ready to face as many trials as I had to. Suddenly the wind which had been blowing from the east changed directions and began blowing southwest from Konoha's direction. The winds? Great grandmother, why have you changed your directions just now? Is this change to be one of good or misfortune? The elder thought worriedly before kneeling on one knee and placing a hand on the earth, whilst closing his eyes. O great Mother Earth, hear me, your son. Great-grandmother Winds has changed her path once more towards the home of one of your children and of our brother. Please show me, O mother who is wise and patient. Show me what thy eyes do see of our journey to our brother in the land of fire. Show me with your own eyes the visions yet to pass, prayed the old warrior. When the elder opened his eyes, they were completely white and so bright that they cast shadows on the tall grass around him. His eyes seemed to focus ahead of him as though what he was seeing was right in front of him. Several seconds later he closed his eyes and the white light slowly disappeared into himself. Yet to some what a couple of seconds seemed like hours to him. I see, thank you mother for your warnings. White Bull then stood up and looked southwest towards Konoha. Be strong, Maelstrom. For we will arrive as quickly as we can to help aid you in the coming weeks. Stay strong, my grandson, for your brothers, your family, is coming to help. I just hope we are enough. With his last words spoken, White Bull turns towards the camp to finish packing his own teepee. After all, he wouldn't be setting a good example to the younger generations if he didn't follow his own duties. Or getting his ass chewed out by his loving wife in front of the younglings and other elders of their brother and sister tribes. Time skip. 4 days since departure. For 4 days young Horus, the falcon partner of Talon, had been flying towards Konoha to deliver a message for his partner's brother. Young Horus was said to be one of the fastest falcons of his generations. He had delivered messages from the northern parts land of Earth to the middle of the lands of sand in record time. He was sure that this delivery would be a cakewalk since the distance was not too far and the weather seemed clear on the first day. He and his partner had measured and both thought the trip would be no longer than 3 days. Yet Grandmother of the Wind and Mother Earth seemed to be conspiring against him, and somehow they managed to get the two brothers of destruction in on this conspiracy as well. Now Horus was an impatient bird. He had made many long trips between Talon and their friend Ardith, who gave Horus to Talon when he was but an egg, and under bad weather, but this was getting ridiculous. Rain, high winds, and lightning crashed around the young bird of prey, as he waited for a clearing in the weather to continue on his journey, causing any small rodents that he could feast on, during the journey, underground, making for one unhappy, ruffled, hungry falcon. The only thing Horus knew was that there better be a nice plump field rat waiting for him at the end of this road trip, or a certain pair of golden hair and long black-haired teens were going to become intimate with his very sharp talons. Now if only the spirits of thunder and lightning would calm themselves from their battle, he could be on his way. He still had 1.5 days worth of travel to go. Meanwhile in Konoha, the sun was shining, birds were singing, and the general populace was enjoying the long-deserved break from the terrible weather they had been having. Children were running around laughing as the merchants in the market shouted out about their prices, haggled with customers, or argued with fellow stall owners. All seemed to be peaceful in the prosperous village, with ninjas coming and going, no war, no sneak attacks, no boom. And yet, like all things in the world, those moments must come to pass. Ah, Sakura-chan, please wait, I can explain. Oh, you can explain, all right? Why don't you stop running and explain why you were even later than Kakashi-sensei? Ah yes, and here we come upon one of the heroes of the story, young Uzumaki Naruto. Village prankster, dead last of his class, holder of the dreaded Kyuubi no Yoko, and member of Team 7 led by the famous copycat ninja Hitaki Kakashi alongside Uchiha Sasuke and Haruno Sakura. the current pink-haired girl chasing after our blonde-headed hero around the bridge their team usually meets at. Sigh, don't you think you should stop them, sensei? They are causing quite a disturbance. Sasuke, standing on top of the archway, asked before turning his attention back to his teacher, and I am missing valuable training time watching those two idiots. Ma Sasuke, no need to be so uptight. There will always be time for training, but there will be very little time to relax on weeks such as this. Besides, the older ninja looked up from his makeout paradise with lazy eyes. We have been seriously lacking in our team bonding, so why don't we wait a bit longer and enjoy the show? Kakashi then gave his infamous eye smile. Then we'll find out what made our Naruto so late that I showed up even before he did. Aren't you just a little bit curious about your fellow ninja? Sasuke gritted his teeth when his teacher told him to relax. No, I do not care about the Dobi, nor do I want to know anything about him. For all we know, he could have been at that stupid ramen stand he likes so much or had slept in late today. All I care about is getting stronger. Sasuke then turned his head away from his sensei with a frown on his face and anger in his eyes. I thought for sure after the mission to Wave he would have lightened up a bit, but looks like I was wrong. Though Kakashi, well, guess our fun is over. Jumping down in the middle of his other two students, calmly, he then grabbed the two runaway teens by the back of their shirts like a mother dog would pick up her pups by their scruff. It made for quite an amusing scene since both teens curled up as they looked towards their teacher's face. Now that I have your attention, maybe you two can stop causing massive property damage to the bridge so that we don't get fined, or have to fix it up ourselves, But Sensei Naruto was even later than you. We've had to wait here an extra hour just for him to show up, the pink-haired girl complained. Kakashi turned towards Sakura with a hard look, and I'm sure that Naruto has a valid explanation to why he was late today, Sakura. So why don't we give your teammate a chance to explain himself before you attempt to turn him into paste, Eep. Yes, Kakashi-sensei, I'm sorry. Sakura cried out. Good, now let's go someplace more private since we've already caused a lot of noise thanks to you two. Now off we go, the copy nin exclaimed proudly. Naruto then awkwardly asked a question, afraid of setting the pink girl off again. Kakashi-sensei, do you think you can put us down now? We can walk just fine by ourselves, you know. But you see, Naruto, putting you both down means letting both of you go. Kakashi replied smugly, and I don't want Sakura-chan to get her hands on you or for you to disappear on us before we get to Training Ground 7. I'm fairly interested in what could have kept you away for so long. Fortunately for Naruto, who had by then resigned himself to fate, was saved from his impromptu interrogation by the arrival of a black-cloaked Anbu member with a blank white mask. Good afternoon, Anbu-san. May I ask why you are here blocking our path towards our training grounds? Kakashi asked, confused. The Anbu bowed towards the gray-haired man. Forgive me, Kakashi-senpai, but I have an emergency message for your team, or more specifically for one Uzumaki Naruto. He has been requested for a mission to a farm outside the village owned by a farmer named the Weary Hawk. Kakashi thought for a minute before replying. Sounds more like a title than a name to me, Anbu-san. The Anbu looked towards the blonde teen in his senpai's arms. I am sure Uzumaki-san knows where the farm is and the owner very well. He can lead you to your destination. Also, he has been given lead role for this mission. You will also be meeting with Team 8, who is already there from an earlier mission on the farm. This mission is to be labeled mid-C rank in the books because of the size of the teams there and for any unseen danger. Understood? Naruto had managed to dislodge himself during the brief briefing, cause of both his sensei's and teammates' shock over the details, stood tall and answered the Anbu. Yes, Anbu-san, I understand. We will be leaving now and should arrive there long before sundown and find out the rest of the details from both Team 8 and the Weary Hawk Ojii-san. Do we have a time limit on this mission? He asked, breaking the spell on his team. Yes, you have 3 days to complete your mission as well as help with Team 8's own mission, starting when you arrive at the farm. Good luck, Team 7. And with that said, the Anbu disappeared into a white smoke cloud and was gone. Naruto then turned towards his teammates and sensei. Okay, here's the deal. Everyone go home and pack for a 3-day round trip and meet at the North Gate in 20. Bring clothes you don't mind getting dirty since there could be a number of things down at the farm that could have happened. Sakura managed to wake herself completely from her shock first. Damn it, Naruto, we all know it was just probably a joke. Kakashi-sensei is really in charge of this mission, not you, right, sensei? As Sakura said, Dobi, there is no way the Hokage would have put you in charge of any mission this big. Sasuke grunted, agreed with Sakura, causing the girl to think she had gained some points with her longtime crush. He continued, I'm sure once we get there Kurenai-sensei will tell us that Kakashi is in charge of the mission, not you. Naruto closed his eyes, attempting to block the soon-to-be headache. You know, Teme, I really don't care what you think. As of right now I've been put into the leader position and you will follow my word. Are you actually trying to order me around, Dobi? The Uchiha asked angrily. What gives you the right to order me around dead last? I am the last Uchiha and so therefore I am above you. In fact, if any of us should have been chosen as leader, then it is obvious it would be either Kakashi or me. The last heir announced proudly. Well, too bad, Sasuke, I'm the one in charge of the mission right now, not you. Unless something happens that causes that to change, I am the leader and you will follow my orders, got it? Naruto spoke softly. And in case you still think I'm incompetent, then why don't you ask Kakashi-sensei where the Weary Hawk's farm is? Or why don't you tell us yourself since you're being oh so generous today? Naruto asked of the young Uchiha. Sasuke once more gritted his teeth as he could not recall ever hearing of the name the Weary Hawk or of any place called as such. He then turned to his sensei, hoping that Kakashi had some idea of where the place was to put the Dobi in his place. Kakashi, sensing the eyes of his students bearing down on him, looked down at all three of them and gave the reply that two of them didn't want to hear. Unfortunately, I myself do not know anybody or any place called Weary Hawk. So we must assume that Naruto knows the way since we were not given a directions on how to get there. Sakura's eyes opened wide and tried to make sense of this reality, but Kakashi's sensei team 8 and their sensei got there and they didn't have Naruto. So that just shows some people know where it is, right? Fortunately for them, Sakura-chan, Naruto answered her instead. They probably had directions from the mission statement they were given. Unfortunately for them, they didn't have me and had to take a much harder path to Weary's home. As Sakura and Sasuke both bristled with anger next to each other, Kakashi asked Naruto, are you saying that you not only know where this place is as Naruto but that there is an easier way to get there? Of course, sensei, after all. The young blonde paused. It's the only place I can truly call home here. He could feel it now. The bond that was only felt with those his partner called brothers. Finally, Horus' trip was coming to a close and he would be reunited with Maelstrom soon enough. But the young hawk was tired, hungry, and cold. He would have to continue the journey the next day. Luckily, he had stumbled upon a farm not too far from the village that was out of way and seemed would take many hours to find on foot. He could rest there in the barn, but Horus could not shake the unmistakable feeling that the farm had. It felt just as the tribe did. Horus could feel the auras of those who have been blessed by the spirits. So it is as the old human foretold. Greeting, brother of the sky, how goes you? A voice echoed within the falcon's mind. Young Horus was so focused on finding the auras that he never noticed himself being surrounded by two different falcons, one on either side of him. So great was his shock he gave a screech of fear at the new arrivals. The falcon to his left let out a deep laugh, ha 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 ha. There is no need to be frightened, young sibling. You are among friends and family now. This falcon seemed to be several inches bigger than Horus. His wings spanned 2.5 feet long. His feathers were all black as the darkness of thunderclouds, except for around his eyes, they were of a solid blood red. His beak as well was impressive, for the curve of it showed that it was as dangerous as his talons. Now father, must you make fun of our younger brother? Look at the poor dear, he must have been caught in that storm heading north. A female voice admonished the male to Horus' left. Tell us, brother, why are you here? It has been so long since we have heard from our wandering brethren to the north. I am known as touched by clouds and my father is known as Moon's shadow. The female to his left was probably one of the most beautiful creature Horus had ever seen in his short life. Her feathers were as pure white as untouched snow, cleaned and picked to perfection, moving in the thermals as the clouds in the sky. She was only a bit bigger than himself, letting him know she was his age, maybe older. After calming his racing heart as they showed to be kind to him, he spoke to the older Moon's shadow. I have come to seek out light in the maelstrom and I have made a most hazardous journey to these lands. He calmed himself down some more to ask them, please my brother and sister, allow me to stay here in your territory before I leave to deliver my message? Both the falcons laughed once more at the young falcon between them. Ah, young brother, you may stay as long as you like here, for this is not only our home but the home of all of those who follow the old ways of the Great Spirit, Moon's shadow exclaimed proudly. Follow us, our brother. We shall show you to our roosting area so that you may rest, Touched by Clouds thought softly. With a word of thanks, the three birds of prey swooped down onto the small farm, passing by several fields, a barn, stables with horses, and stopping at a small yard, landing between a decent-sized home and several tippus onto a small wooden fence. Nearby was an old man sitting and stroking a small fire. His hair was long, ending just above his butt, and was black with white stripes going through it. The old man's face was rugged and filled with wrinkles, but his eyes twinkled with the knowledge of one who had seen much in his life and the fire of a young warrior. He spoke to the three falcons in a raspy voice, greeting Shadow and Clouds. "Welcome home, both of you." The old man coughed. "I see you have found our guest that I said would arrive today." "Greetings, Horus. I am Weary Hawk, owner of the land before you and follower of the Great Spirit." "Cloud, you're back." The four turned towards the wooden house to see a young human child, with dark black hair, run outside, followed by three older children, a white puppy, and a beautiful dark-haired woman with exotic red eyes. Rose, touched by Clouds, yelled loudly, before flying towards the young girl, flying in several circles before landing on her shoulders, and allowed the young girl to softly brush her feathers. "Oh Shadow, how come you never act that way around me anymore, my partner?" Weary Hawk questioned his fellow falcon. "Old man, you know we are both too old to be acting like those two over there. We have known each other for many years and I sense no need to act like a newly partnered hatchling," Moon's shadow replied. "Oh, but it would make this old man feel so much better if you did, Shadow." The old man wheezed out. "Don't you care any more for your fellow brother of the Great Spirit?" The older falcon sighed before flapping over to his friend and landing on his shoulder. "What you need more, old man, is to have a medicine man look you over, or a new pair of lungs," he whispered loudly. This caused both the younger falcons and the young redhead girl to laugh loudly at the old man. "Stupid old bird, you're lucky we have enough food for our soon-to-be many guests, otherwise I'd feed you to them for supper instead of deer," Weary Hawk muttered under his breath. "Anyway, young Horus, I know of your journey and the message you bear with you. I am happy to announce that your journey is almost at an end, though I ask for patience since the one you seek is on his way here now from the village." Weary Hawk caught his breath before continuing. "You of course are welcome to rest here as long as you like and take any roost in the barn as yours." Spreading his wings, Horus then dipped his head towards the elder. "Thank you for your hospitality, honorable elder. I will happily accept your invitation though." Horus then looked up towards the four seemingly stunned humans and the puppy. "May I ask who your other guests are, here in your home?" This brought the other falcons' attention to their other guest in the small yard. "Rose, my dear, who are these humans and why are they here? What in the darkest gopher hole is going on here, Hawk? These people weren't here when we left this morning." Both Clouds and Shadow faced the young children and the adult with great hostility, flaring their wings and screeching angrily at the small group, causing them to back away from the sudden protective nature of the falcons. Moon's shadow and touched by Clouds, you will reign in your anger now. That is not how you greet guests in our home as stated by the laws of the Great Spirit, Weary Hawk yelled at the two falcons. His eyes blazing with a great fire, he turned back and forth between the two of them. "Stand down now, you two." The two falcons lowered their heads in shame upon forgetting the laws of the Great Spirit. "We apologize for our rude behavior. Please accept our apologizes and forgive us our trespasses." Both spread their wings and bowed to the guest. The dark-haired woman stepped forward. "Apology accepted. My name is Yuhi Kuranai and I am the sensei of Team 8 of the village hidden in the leaves. My team consists of Hyuga Hinata, Inazuka Kiba, his partner Akamaru, and Aburum Shino." All three of the newly announced members of Team 8 bowed quickly towards the two falcons while the young puppy barked in hello. "Inazuka, you say?" Shadow asked the young woman quietly before looking towards Weary Hawk, who nodded to him about his suspicions. "These kind folks were hired to help out around the farm today and arrived many hours after you left. Unfortunately, something else has made itself known here in this sanctuary and I was forced to call once more upon the hidden leaf and request that our own maelstrom be sent here soon to help me rid of our unwanted guest." Weary Hawk explained tiredly to the three falcons. Excuse me, Weary Hawk-san? But who is this maelstrom you speak of? Maybe we know him." The Hyuga heiress stuttered out shyly. The Inuzuka, gaining some courage back, yelled, "Yeah, and what's the problem that you're having? Just give us the chance and we'll take care of whatever you don't want here." The quiet Aburum then spoke. "Logically, it would be better if we had such knowledge to defend ourselves, since we find this place is full of many surprises. Much like my students, I would like these questions answered as well, Weary-san. I am not about to put my students at risk due to no intel on what is happening and why when Maelstrom arrives he will be taking over our mission," Kurenai stated after smiling at her students for their well-asked questions. Sighing at the young ninjas, Weary Hawk weighed the options of answering their questions. "Old man, don't you even think about answering those questions. They are but children and strangers who know nothing of our world," Moon's Shadow told his partner his opinion. "I agree with my father on this, Weary Hawk. They cannot know of Maelstrom or of what is causing troubles in our home." Touched by Cloud spoke, agreeing with her father. Turning towards the last two in the clearing, he looked for their guidance on what he should do. Rose looked to Weary Hawk and smiled while nodding, letting him know she would agree with whatever his decision was. Horace, though, wanted to make sure all were safe from harm. "Honorable Elder, tell them. In the long run it will help to keep them safe and they might turn out to really be his friends. At this point in time, whatever is causing the disturbance here, we will need all the help we can get." Nodding, Weary Hawk cleared his throat to answer their questions in a clear voice. "The one we call Light in Maelstrom is known in your village as Uzumaki Naruto. He is my adoptive grandson and older adoptive brother." Towards young Rose Petals there, he said, pointing towards Rose, "and the unwelcome guest in these woods is an evil spirit that I will need his help to track down and destroy." Shocked by the stunning realization of one of their comrades' other life, only Shino was able to ask the important question. "What is the spirit called?" The old man looked at the young children with great fear in his eyes, not for himself and his family but for them. Yi Nald Loshi, the Skinwalker. Outside Konoha 2 hours after mission briefing. "Damn those two. Seriously, is it so hard to believe that for once I know something they don't?" Naruto thought to himself as he was running through the forest surrounding his destination. As you can see, our young hero has been ranting secretly about his fellow teammates, in his head, for quite a while now. More specifically since his departure from Konoha's North Gate several hours ago. Naruto swore once more to himself, "Damn Kakashi-sensei too. Offering to stay behind my ass. He's probably going to talk to the Hokage about this mission, and I betcha a month's worth of ramen he told that Teme and Banshee to stay behind." Shaking his head from such thoughts, he continuously jumped from one branch to another quietly, completely ignore his fellow traveling companion a couple of feet behind him. "Oi kid, slow down will ya? While I have the most stamina out of the pack, I'm not exactly that fast," a huge bulldog yelled from behind him. His name was Bull and he was one of Kakashi's trained nin dogs. Kakashi had summoned Bull to go with Naruto as backup. Not that he didn't trust Naruto, but because it was an area he was unfamiliar with. Who knew what kind of dangers this part of the forest held? The large dog then huffed as Naruto turned towards Bull as though surprised to see him. "Just my luck I get stuck with a kid that has a one-track mind. Why didn't Pakun get this kind of job? Sure, because I leave a huge scent trail behind to follow later on when Kakashi gets his other two pups, but come on. I am sorry Bull-san, I completely forgot you were behind me." Naruto told the dog politely. "We are almost to our destination anyway, so once we arrive at the gate, we can take a rest there and you can dispel back to your home, Bull-san." Well, at least the kid has manners. The bulldog thought happily. "How long until we reach the gate, Uzumaki-san?" Hearing the upbeat tone of the big dog, Naruto replied, "Not much long, I'd say another 20 minutes. Do you believe you can keep up for that much longer, Bull-san?" Bull snorted at the young pup's attempt to get a rise out of him. "Huh. Don't count me out just yet, you little whelp. I'm still young for my age and can surely kick you ass from here to Suna and back without breaking a sweat." Naruto laughed quietly to himself for once. "Good to hear, dog-san. I'm counting on you to stick with me till the end." 1 hour behind Naruto. Why did I even want to take a team this year again? A gray-haired gentleman asked himself. Oh yeah, it is because Guy went off shooting his mouth about how his team is better than any team I allowed to pass my test. I'm an idiot. Yes folks, the only reason Kakashi even took another stab at leading a young team of genin, is because of a certain green beast of Konoha that already had a team 1 year older than his. Not because the Hokage thought it would help him out, Nor was it because he felt the need to teach his old best friend, relative, or dead teacher's son to become great ninjas. Plain anger and jealousy of one bowl cut, green wearing, youth shouting, taijutsu master known as Maida Guy. Looking back towards his last two students, Kakashi was once more regretting his decision to pass this team. After getting over the shock of finding out his student was the leader of their next mission, he became extremely proud of Naruto as he seemed to take charge instantly of their little group. His heart warmed slightly at seeing his shortest student taking his mission seriously and not joking around. Of course, after arriving at the North Gate early, Naruto tried to see if it was a genjutsu. He and his student waited for the rest of their team. When neither showed up and after putting off leaving long enough, Naruto told his sensei that he was leaving without them. Kakashi was never more pissed in his life than he was at that moment before Naruto left. Calling out to the young blonde, he then summoned up Bull, one of his biggest and strongest dogs. Flashback. Naruto, this is Bull. Bull, this is Naruto. He introduced the two to each other. Bull, I want you to go with Naruto on his journey to this farm in the forest. After sizing up each other, the two nodded towards one another, knowing that they would trust each other. And what of you, Kakashi? Will you be along soon? Bull then asked his master. Kakashi nodded towards Bull. Yes, I will join you both shortly after I have located my two other wayward students. Until then, please watch over Naruto. Shortly after the two left, Kakashi went looking for his two missing students. After looking for 15 minutes, an Anbu Black Ops member appeared in front of him. Hitaki, Kakashi, you are wanted in the council room at the Hokage Tower. The two students you seek are there as well and have called the council together to discuss about Uzumaki-san's mission to Weary Hawk's farm outside of the walls. And with nothing more left to say, the Anbu member disappeared. Ah crap, can today get any worse? The Hitaki heir thought to himself. When he arrived at the chambers, all he saw was the Hokage and his three advisors along with his two students. One was screaming at the top of her lungs about how Sasuke should be put in charge of the mission, while Sasuke stood with his arms crossed as though expecting the oldest and wisest ninjas in the village to bend over and kiss his ass. Seeing that the civilian council was not there, Kakashi breathed a deep sigh of relief. You know, it's the simple things in life. Before looking towards the small crowd before him, hopefully I can get us out of here without any further problems and get to Naruto quickly. And so he walked up to the 6 ninja before him. Flashback ends. Present. Kakashi-sensei, where are we going again? Haruno Sakura asked her sensei once again. For the 100th time, as though they weren't going after Naruto. Sakura, how many times do I have to tell you? We are following Naruto and Bull's scent. We are going to catch up to Naruto and we are going to listen to his each and every order he gives. No ifs, and, or buts. Kakashi replied tiredly. Seriously, how was this girl the head of her class? It's not like we'll actually be able to help the idiot. He's probably already gotten himself killed while on the way there, and your dog is just continuing on without him, the Uchiha said arrogantly. Yeah, it's not like the idiot could do anything right to begin with, no matter what the reason the Hokage has for putting him in charge, the pink-haired Genin yelled at the top of her lungs. Cha, Sasuke-kun is right, the idiot is probably bleeding slowly somewhere in this forest. Good riddance. Inner Sakura agreeing with both the Uchiha and her outer self. Kakashi was about to turn around and yell at the two angrily, but he was interrupted by a small pug that the three of them were following. Don't count young Uzumaki-san out just quite yet. Granted, we are following Bull's scent. It is only because his scent is the easiest to follow because it is strong and I have known him all my life. Pakun growled at the two young ninjas. While it is true I am having trouble following Uzumaki's scent, I can still smell it, so that means he is still alive and well, he finished. That caused the two teens to quickly shut their mouths, and for a few kami-blessed moments all was quiet and relaxingly. Thank you, Pakun, Kakashi thought. Though as usual in Kakashi's life not everything remains as peaceful. Kakashi, we've got company. The small pug yelled to his master. The three ninjas jumped down onto the forest floor and stood back to back with Pakun in the middle of them. Where is it, Pakun? What do you sense? The gray-haired Junin asked his partner. Kakashi. I don't know, Pakun told Kakashi. What do you mean, Pakun-san? I'm sure with your nose you can tell us whatever is out there. Sakura said, trying to find the enemy hidden in the forest. This forest hides many secrets, pup. Not even I can tell what's what most of the time. The pug sniffed once more, though I don't know what this thing is, it only seems to want to watch us, for now. Worried, Kakashi whispered to his team, afraid of letting their guest know what his plan was. Okay, here's the deal. We are going to double time it towards Naruto and Bull's location as fast as we can. No stops, no rest, do you two understand? Before the two could voice their reply, someone called out to them. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura-chan, Sasuke-teme. Over here. It sounded like Naruto's voice. As though he was just a few feet away from them, but coming from all around them. Naruto, is that you? Where's Bull? Naruto, you idiot, get out here right now and stop messing around. Both Kakashi and Sakura called out into the forest, searching for their comrade in the forest. Kakashi-sensei, Sakura-chan. Over here. Here, the voice called again. Damn, Dobi probably got lost from the dog and has been wandering the forest for hours. The Uchiha replied arrogantly. Teme, is that you? Over here, help me. Don't worry, idiot, I'll get you. The Uchiha replied back to Naruto's voice, with a smirk, before jumping in the direction he was facing. No. Kakashi stopped the boy quickly, he must not go into the woods. Pakun yelled to Kakashi in fear. Hearing the fear in the dog's voice, he jumped onto the Uchiha heir's back, tackling the boy to the ground. Kakashi then pulled them both up and dragged themselves back to the group. Pakun-san, what is wrong? That was Naruto's voice, so we have to help the idiot. Sakura asked the small dog. That's not Uzumaki-san, while it is his voice I do not smell his scent anywhere close to us. But what I smell is something else. Pakun replied, scared out of his mind at the smell. What is this creature? It is nothing like I've ever smelled before. Kakashi, whatever this is, I don't want to meet. It has a very dark feeling to its aura. Pakun told Kakashi. Kakashi nodded towards one of his many partners. Okay, screw double time, we are hauling ass, you two. Now let's go. Hi, sensei. With that said, the three ninjas and dog jumped into the trees again and left. Never once noticing the two big brown eyes watching them leave, or the deep angry growl that left the owner of those eyes' throat. With Naruto, Bull and Naruto arrived at Weary Hawk's entrance to his farm. A huge archway with a small gate and fence was the only barrier between the farm and the deep forest. We're here, Bull-san, Naruto told to the panting dog next to him. The big dog collapsed onto the ground near the archway. Fin ally, we've arrived at this accursed farm. Seeing the dog was dead tired, Naruto sat next to Bull and pulled out 2 water bottles and a bowl. Pouring 1 bottle of water into the bowl, he then set it in front of the huge bulldog before getting up and sitting on the fence surrounding the property. Arigato, Uzumaki-san. I am in your debt. Bull replied before diving into the bowl and drinking deeply. After several minutes of letting the dog rest, Naruto turned towards Bull. You know, Bull, if you want to, you may dispel and go home. We have already made it to our destination, so I see no need for you to stay here. The bulldog snored at the young ninja. While I appreciate your concern, Uzumaki-san, I was told to stick with you until Kakashi and the others arrive, and since they are not here yet, you and I are stuck with each other, so get used to it. The bulldog then smiled at the blonde. You make it seem as though you don't like my company? I'm not that bad, am I? The blonde laughed at the bulldog's smile. Forgive me, Bull-san, but I thought it'd be polite to send you back since we have arrived at the farm, which is a kind of sanctuary to any and all weary travelers as long as they obey the rules and laws of those living here. The human and dog shared another quick laugh before both got up and walked towards the closed gate to enter the farm area. As Naruto opened the gate wide open, a short burst of wind came forth from the path that the two had taken through the forest, causing them to look back into the darkness. Something is coming, isn't it, Bull-san? Yes, Uzumaki-san, and it isn't very nice. Together the two backed into the farm as the gate closed with a slight crash. We haven't much time, Bull-san. I think I now know why I was called out here. Let's go. Hi. At the campfire with Team 8 and Weary Hawk's group. I will draw thorns from your feet. We will walk the white path of life together. Like a brother of my own blood, I will love you. I will wipe tears from your eyes. When you are sad, I will put your aching heart to rest. Looking up from the fire, his family, and Team 8 had sat around. Weary Hawk saw Naruto and a very big bulldog arrive before them. Welcome, Maelstrom, welcome home. Bowing down towards the old man, Naruto spoke as softly and as quietly as any of his former classmates had ever heard from him before. Thank you, grandfather, for welcoming me back. It is good to finally be here. I would like to apologize for my lateness, but there were some unforeseen circumstances that delayed me from arriving much earlier. Weary Hawk waved his hand dismissively at the young genin. Think nothing of it, my boy. All that matters now is that you are here, and soon we can rid our land of an accursed spirit that has recently taken to haunting outside our home. Weary then smiled warmly at the younger male. Now aren't you going to say hello to your family and my other guest? Also, there is someone here who is wanting to see you, but that can wait as he, Shadow, and Clouds are out hunting for a meal before the sun falls. Looking up at the older man with a raised eyebrow, Naruto decided to push the question out of his mind for now. Turning towards Team 8, he once again bowed. Hyuga-san, Inazuka-san, Aburum-san, and Kurenai-sensei. Here he heard a small yip from within Kiba's jacket, and Akamaru as well. I, Uzumaki Naruto, bid you hello on this glorious day under Grandfather Sun and hope that the Great Spirit blesses you today. Shocking Team 8 at how sincere and cordial he was acting towards them, as though they were just strangers in the street. Leaving them to wallow in their shock, he turned to the young dark-headed girl sitting by Weary Hawk's left side. And greetings to you, young sister. I have seen the spirits have been kind to you these many years that I have been gone. Here Naruto bowed his head in shame. I would like to also apologize for leaving and never coming to visit you in the past. Can you find it within your heart to forgive your older brother for making you believe I had abandoned you? His voice was filled with shame and anger at himself for not saying goodbye to Rose so long ago. Standing up, Rose then hugged the blonde to the ground. Light in the maelstrom. You who are my brother has no need to ask for my forgiveness when it has already been given to you. Do not feel shamed, for I understood why you left when you did, and I only ask that you can look at me and see the pride I have knowing you are my brother. Pushing his glasses more onto his face, Shino drew Naruto's attention away from the small reunion with his sibling. Naruto-san, while it warms our hearts to see you reunited with your family, we need to have some questions answered before you start our mission, the bug user stated. Sitting down with Rose to his left and Bull on his right, he looked towards Team 8. Alright, what do you want to know? Hearing it was okay for them to ask questions, and seeing as they had time before the sunset, Kurenai decided to go first. Where is your team, Uzumaki-san? When we heard you were the one Weary Hawk-san sent for, we expected your team to be with you as well, the young teacher asked. When Naruto started to show an anger-filled aura, Team 8 quickly backed up and felt frightened of the blonde genin. Yet feeling as though nothing was wrong, Weary Hawk himself stood up, with a newly lit tobacco pipe in his hand, and walked towards Naruto without a care of the aura the teen was sprouting out. Lifting this pipe by the end, he then gently tapped the whiskered boy on the head. Whack! Thud! And so Team 8 saw, with what seemed like a small tap on the head, Uzumaki Naruto laid out on the earth as though he was hit on the head with a frying pan. Seeing both the looks on their faces and her adoptive brother on the ground clutching his head in pain sent Rose into a laughing fit with tears in her eyes. Naruto-kun, holy crap, what did the old man have in that pipe? It seems Weary-san has more strength than he lets on, though I sensed no chakra being used. There was something else. I sensed no chakra in the pipe or any build-up in the old man. Weary-san must be stronger than he looks to do that to the kid. These were the thoughts going through Team 8's minds as they watched Naruto get up angrily and look towards Weary Hawk. Ow, what the hell was that for grandfather? That really hurt. Naruto yelled, questioned Weary Hawk with tears in his eyes and hands on his head. We have enough negative energy from the reason I called you. We do not need you adding any more and possibly feeding more power to the beast. So rein in your anger and calm yourself, Naruto, before you frighten our guest anymore. Weary Hawk then looked down upon his adoptive grandson with a scary smile on his face. Or must I remind you of your old punishments by using them on you to do so? Hearing his grandfather say his birth name and the threat of the old punishments, Naruto quickly calmed himself down before bowing to everyone around the smoldering fire. Forgive me everyone for scaring you, I swear it won't happen again. It's alright, Naruto-kun, it's just you surprised us for a moment. Hinata stuttered out quickly to the young boy. Kiba also nodded his head in agreement, still shocked at the anger the boy exuded towards his two teammates. Shino also agreed with the Hyuga heiress, as Hinata-san said, it is alright, Uzumaki-san. And as your anger showed, we're guessing that your unforeseen circumstances are related to your two teammates? Naruto snorted at the reminder of the two people who have been nothing but problems since he woke up this morning. You could say that Shino. Those two did not want to believe that I was put in charge of this mission, and when it came time for us to leave they never showed up. My sensei Kakashi offered to stay behind and follow me later once he found them. Naruto looked down to the ground sadly. Is it really so hard to believe that I can do something right? Here Kiba decided to speak up. Well, you have to admit, Naruto, you did act like an idiot a lot during the academy. Not to mention all your bad grades and your tendency to skip class to prank people. From the way you acted you gained the title Dobi or Dead Last from the class, so yes, it isn't very easy for others to change their views of what you once were to how you're acting right now. The dog using ninja replied sagely, or as sagely as one such as himself can look and sound. Hearing what his old classmate had said caused Naruto to sweat drop. Well, when you say it like that, Kiba. Hinata decided to help her longtime crush out. Anyo, Naruto-kun, I'm sure Kiba didn't mean to sound as harsh as he did, it's just his way. She said blushingly. Unfortunately, Kiba is right about Uzumaki-san, Hinata-chan. With his skipping of class and other disapproving methods of gaining attention, it is not surprising his teammates thought ill of him. The usually silent Aburum spoke once again next to his team. Once more Naruto's sweat dropped at the second male of Team 8's of brutal honesty, et tu Shino-san. Shino pushed up his glasses some more before answering, yes Uzumaki-san, myself as well. Well, not to cut into the breaking down of my adoptive grandson, which I will admit is kind of funny, let us prepare ourselves a quick meal. I will set out on my own to look for my grandson's team after we eat to ensure that they are safe and bring them here. Weary Hawk spoke up, standing at his full height of 5 feet 11 inches before turning to walk away. By the way, old man, you still haven't told me why you called me out here. What gives? Naruto asked the old gentleman, before pulling out his canteen. It is not time for the harvest, nor do you need help birthing some of the cattle or horses. It has to be serious for calling me home after 3 years away, he continued. Is it this dark spirit you mentioned after you whacked me on my head? Weary Hawk stopped in his tracks before turning to Naruto. Ah yes, I almost forgot myself, it seems. Stretching himself out a bit he said, recently Rose and I spotted a Yi Naldloshi hiding in the forest while riding our horses during the early morning light. Here Naruto spitted out his water that he was drinking before looking at the old man incredulously. Yes, it shocked me as well to see this spirit so close to our home. We rode back here as fast as we could and sent an emergency hawk to Konoha as touched by clouds and Moon's shadow were already out looking for an old friend of ours. Weary Hawk then pointed to Team 8. Forgotten by myself again. Team 8 showed up later in the day for their mission of clearing out the barn, fixing the guest house, and the fenced boundary of the farm. This being their first C rank, they were given 3 days to complete it since our farm has fallen into a bit of despair. What the hell, old man, why didn't you send them home or at least ask for more backup other than myself? Naruto screamed at his grandfather. Weary Hawk sighed at Naruto's outburst. Naruto, you know of the Skinwalker's powers, correct? Naruto nodded his head. Then you know of the danger it can be for those who do not know anything about it. Were I to send them home as soon as they arrived, they would have been in even greater danger than keeping them here where I can at least protect them. I see your point. Kurenai decided she has had enough of not knowing more about their enemy. Weary-san, I must ask you, what is the Yi Naldloshi exactly? We know it is a dark spirit, but that's about it. Instead of Weary Hawk answering her, it was dear Rose who spoke up before her grandfather. The Yi Naldloshi, or Skinwalker as it is called today, was once a human who practiced in the magical arts of our people. It is said that one is only made when the witch doctor has killed their entire family or closest relative. Rose turned her eyes towards Team 8. They are also shapeshifters, said to have the ability to change their shapes into any creature they want. From birds, to coyotes, even bears, and horses to escape those who would destroy them. Weary Hawk continued off where his granddaughter left off. These once proud men and women lose their minds to those of the dark spirits residing in them, turning them into nothing less than animals driven by bloodlust and instinct. He drew breath before continuing. They are to be destroyed on sight, as once they have grown strong enough they can blend in with the other humans around them and cause massive chaos and paranoia. Isn't there a way to change them back to their human self? Surely there is something you can do so that they may be helped? Hinata stuttered out, causing the 3 family members to shake their heads at the innocence of Team 8. Hinata-chan, Even if there was a way to change them back to their human selves, their fate would be the same. Killing of another member of the tribe or of taking any other person's right to breathe, without proof of some sort of evil they have committed, is punishable by death. Naruto answered Hinata and Team 8. Damn harsh. Kiba whispered to himself. Weary Hawk shook his head. You are children and are innocent of the ways of our world. Nothing in life is truly easy out on the plains, and we see no need to give such big and elaborate trials like you ninjas and city folk do. We understand, thank you Weary-san, Kurenai told the old man before looking at her team with sadness. They were still too young to understand that everything is not like Konoha outside the wall, and she had thought she could introduce them to that side of the world slowly before their first Chunin exams. Weary Hawk bowed his head to Kurenai with sadness. I am sorry ma'am, but I believe that now is a good time to learn that the world is not totally sunshine and gentle breezes. He then stood up, dusting himself off. Now I believe we have wasted enough time. I must go find your team Naruto. Naruto blushed red as he himself had completely forgot about his team. Ahihihi. I am sure there is no reason to worry about them grandfather, there is no need to go looking out for them yourself in the dark. Bah, I am not a helpless old man young Maelstrom. I can still take you behind the tipis for a lesson in respect. The old man grumbled while shaking his fist at the young teenager. Paling Naruto quickly shouted, No. No, I don't mean no disrespect honorable grandfather. I just mean why don't you use it to look for my team? It, Team 8 asked confusingly before looking back and forth between Naruto and Weary Hawk. Weary Hawk shook his head at Naruto's suggestion. I am much too weak Naruto. Though my spirit burns with the fire of a young warrior, I have let my body grow weak from not training it in the ways of our people. He coughed violently into his hand before continuing. I have already used it once in the past few days and must wait for my body to recover before I am allowed again. Then let me grandfather. You know I am much more healthy and younger than you and am adept in the ways of the tribes. I can do this. Naruto shouted, pleaded with his adoptive grandfather, getting on his knees to bow to the elder. Weary Hawk put himself into a thinking pose, wondering whether he should allow the genin to take part in this particular ceremony. Weary-san, what exactly is this? It, Uzumaki-san is suggesting? The teacher of Team 8 asked. This, that my grandson speaks of is one of the forest of Konoha's most powerful secrets, hidden and watched over by myself and our tribe. It is like many of Mother Earth's hidden sites in different regions of our world. Weary Hawk closed his eyes with a smile, as though remembering a faraway memory. Naruto decided to truly answer Team 8's question, seeing as how his grandfather went into his memories. The tree where the first Hokage grew, the forest around Konoha, where he gained the strength needed to turn this once grassy land into the beautiful forest we see today. The Great Tree of Fire. I call bullshit, Kiba yelled after Naruto's statement. Team 8 also had faces of disbelief on them as well, clearly not believing their blonde-haired comrade. Whack, thump, were the sounds made when Weary Hawk magically appeared behind Kiba and smacked him with his wooden pipe into the ground. Watch your language, runt. There are women around here and I, myself, do not condone of such language in my presence. He then reached down and grabbed Kiba by the back of his collar and jerked him up so that he and Weary Hawk were eye to eye. Do I make myself clear, son of Inuzuka? Kiba looked deep into Weary Hawk's eyes and upon seeing the anger in them replied, Why yes sir. Hearing his answer, Weary Hawk dropped Kiba onto the ground, making him land on his butt. While I do not use such language to express my disbelief, I must agree with my teammate. The Great Tree of Fire is nothing but a myth, a legend, told to academy students in their second year. There has been no evidence of this tree being real except inside the books at the public schools and the academy. The usually quiet Aburun gave his answer with Hinata nodding along with him. Weary Hawk-san, while I have little to no trouble believing there is something causing trouble here on your farm, please refrain from trying to feed lies to us. The red-eyed Kurenai said with an angry face. The Great Tree of Fire is but a myth and a symbol of what Konoha ninjas should aspire to be. She took another breath before continuing. Besides, if the tree really existed, then our ninjas would have found it and it would be known to only the top brass of our government. Not to a farmer living in the middle of nowhere. Hearing their replies caused Weary Hawk to laugh loudly at them. Seeing Naruto and Rose's faces drawn with smiles and hearing Weary Hawk's booming laughter caused frowns to once more appear upon Team 8's face. After settling down, Weary Hawk turned and started walking to the opening of the barn. Getting up themselves, Naruto and Rose followed after their adoptive grandfather. Seeing their clients and team leader leaving Team 8 with Akamaru and Bull decided to follow after as well, after exchanging confused looks. Stopping in front of the barn's open door, Weary Hawk nodded to Naruto, who dove into the barn and started rummaging around. "Weary Hawk-san, where exactly are we going?" Hinata asked their older client. Yet once again Rose decided to answer for him. "We are just going to a little spot in the woods, Ninja-san, that is just a bit ways from here, at least 7 to 10 minutes away." "But didn't Weary Hawk-san say that there is a dangerous creature out in the woods right now? What if it decides to attack?" the Hyuga heiress asked of the young girl. Here Naruto returned carrying 4 lit torches, handing one to Rose and Weary Hawk, then holding out another to Team 8, which Kiba took a hold of. They then continued walking when Naruto decides to answer Hinata's question. "The reason we can head to this section of the forest is because next to the guest house, which has reinforced steel bars and windows, this area is completely surrounded by some of the most powerful protection seals given to us long ago from the fire temple a little to the north of us." He paused a bit as they came upon several trees with a path, blocked by a long rope and seals hanging off of it. The rope seemed to go deeper into the woods before being covered by the darkness. "This place feels peaceful, almost like it is untouched by the world." Bull spoke up after getting closer to the roped-off area, with Akamaru barking in agreement, according to Kiba. Both dogs wagged their tails faster the closer the group got to the trees. Pointing at one of the many hanging seals, Naruto continued, "These seals are used only at the Fire Temple and its other brother and sister temples in the ninja world. They help to keep those with evil in their hearts or those who wish to cause harm from getting their hands on some of the most dangerous techniques and weapons hidden away from the world." Seeing that Hinata, who was blushing from being so close to her crush who gave his full attention to her, had gone by, Shino asked, "While that is a nice lesson on what the seals do, I must ask, where are we going exactly?" Stopping at the rope wrapped around the trees, Weary Hawk lifted up the rope, showing they had to go under it to pass. He then turned towards Team 8 with a smile on his face. "Why, my young boy, should a man waste his breath trying to persuade your mind with words when showing you the proof is so much easier? 40 minutes outside farm, 1 hour from sunset. Kakashi-sensei, I'm getting tired. Can't we rest for once?" Sakura pleaded with her sensei, who was in front of her. "I'm starting to get all sweaty." Sasuke-kun probably doesn't like sweaty girls. Inner Sakura decided to make itself know at that time. Damn you, sensei. How are we to gain Sasuke-kun's attention smelling like some kind of muscle-covered logger in the middle of the day?" Kakashi finally, having enough of Sakura's bitching, snapped at her. "Sakura, I have already told you. We cannot stop for any other reason. We have had an encounter with an unknown enemy and are missing one of our teammates who we must meet up with to provide backup just in case he needs our help on his mission, since our enemy is so close to the farm itself." "Now not another word," he finished angrily. Sakura was about to complain again when Sasuke interrupted her. "Just shut up, Sakura. I'm sure that when we get to the farm we can find out what is happening before convincing Naruto to delay the mission until the following morning. That way we can all rest ourselves for whatever degrading task Team 8 and Naruto have to do." He smirked arrogantly. After all, why else would only Naruto be requested for a mission to a farm outside of Konoha? Sakura thought about what Sasuke said before smiling along with him. "You're right, Sasuke-kun, probably the only reason that idiot was called out here was because of some mundane task like cleaning out the piles of crap there or something. Cha. And if Naruto thinks he is going to put us to work, then all we have to do is beat his head and he'll leave us alone. We spend all morning trying to look good for Sasuke-kun, there is no way we're ruining it today by working on some smelly farm." Inner Sakura ranted. "Why me, Kami? Why couldn't I at least get a team that works together decently?" Kakashi thought to himself with fake tears running down his face. "Wow, Kakashi, do I feel sorry for this third student of yours. You got a couple of good catches right there." Sensing the smiles, smirks on the two genins' faces, Kakashi groaned, "Shut up, Pakun. What can you sense of our unknown tag-along?" The small pugs snickered before sniffing the air. Luckily the wind was blowing on their backs, so it wasn't too hard to smell the unknown behind them. But that would only help if their friend had stayed behind them. I don't know Kakashi. I cannot get his scent, so it seems he might have left us alone for now or backed off as we get closer to the farm. Sasuke and Sakura both breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that with the danger past they might be able to rest now from the way they had been traveling thanks to their teacher. Kakashi though was even more worried with this information. Can you not sense him at all, Pakun? The pug shook his head. Oh, I can sense his aura still around us, Kakashi, but getting a whiff of this guy is impossible. It's like he washed his scent off the face of the earth. A true ghost. Meanwhile above them, a huge and completely black raven was flying above 3/4 of Team 7. Its feathers seemed to attract the light and sucked at it rather than reflect it. It had a 4-foot-long wingspan, and if it was standing it would be a good foot and a half tall. It had deep brown eyes that watched as its prey ran through the forest like mice under the shadow of a great hawk. Speaking of great birds of prey, a huge golden eagle appeared next to the dark raven coming from the north. As the eagle settled next to the smaller raven, it heard a voice. So did you take care of your brother and those hatchlings? The voice asked. The eagle turned its mighty head to look at the raven to its left. I went after them as you said and engaged them in combat. Unfortunately, I was unable to kill any of them, only wound and disorient them. The eagle seemed to look away in shame. Forgive me. They dived into the thick underbrush and was unable to follow them to finish the job. A deep and disturbing laugh seemed to resonate out of the dark raven. Do not worry so much, my old friend. Though touched by clouds and that other falcon are young and strong, they did not have the experience to take you on, and that is where Moon's shadow came into play. I did not expect you to kill them all. The raven then turned to look at the eagle. Tell me. How much time will they need to recover? The eagle looked back at the raven. At the most they would need a day to a day and a half to recover, without a healer. Good job, my friend. Now let us leave these pests below us alone for now and go set up a small surprise for our old friend Weary Hawk at his home. Follow me, Raging Winds, the raven said before zooming forward. Raging Winds followed after the raven. As you wish, Roaring Bear. As the two birds of prey flew towards Weary Hawk's farm, leaving behind a couple of worried genins, one paranoid Junin, and a small confused pug. Back at the Naruto and group. Inside the sealed forest. Wow, was the thought going through the minds of Team 8. The forest, while seemingly dark on the outside, was completely different from what it seemed. While still dark, the entire area was alive with many animals and creatures. Predator and prey alike walked around in complete calm, neither running or chasing each other, yet leaving behind a cloud of what seemed to be smoke behind them. Strange fungi and what seemed to be blue crystals grew around them. On the ground, in the trees, casting the entire forest into a light blue color. Blue fireflies also surrounded the area, casting more light here and there. Hinata watched as a deer and a doe walked right up to her, nudging her side as though wanting attention. When she reached out to pet them, the deer leaned into her hands, wanting her to start petting them in earnest. She giggled as she scratched them behind their ears. It felt like she was rubbing dry fur with cool water surrounding it in her hand. Beautiful, aren't they? A smooth voice asked right next Hinata's ear. Hinata squeaked out in surprise, causing the two deer to run away in shock. Behind Hinata, standing there with his fox-like smile, was Naruto. Hee, sorry Hinata-chan, I didn't mean to scare you like that. He spoke softly. It's okay, Naruto-kun. You just surprised me once again is all. Hinata whispered as well, pushing her two fingers together at being so close to her crush. She never once noticed that she said an entire sentence without a stutter. Looking around her to keep from falling into Naruto's smile and blue deep eyes, Hinata spotted the rest of her team. Kiba was a little ways off petting a couple of wolves that had come up to him, while Bull laid on the ground keeping an eye over Akamaru, who was playing with what seemed to be a litter of pups, who then all decided to dogpile on Kiba, who yelled out in surprise. Shino was a few feet away from Kiba, looking as though he was talking to a butterfly that was twice the size of his hand. He brushed the butterfly gently on its body as it calmly flapped its huge blue shining wings in peace. The butterfly was also poking him with its proboscis like a child would poke her older sibling that was sleeping. Seeing her two teammates in such predicaments caused Hinata to giggle silently at them, but that didn't stop Naruto from hearing her. As he turned to look at Kiba and Shino, he himself could not help but let out a little laugh at the young males. While I am glad you are enjoying yourself here in the forest, we must move on. We might not have much time. She looked to her right to see Weary Hawk and Rose's petals watching them with smiles on their faces, and she realized that they were right, they shouldn't be wasting time. Kurenai, who had been leaning back onto a tree, called the ninjas to continue on their small journey. "Hey old man, what were those things?" Kiba decided to ask Weary Hawk. They weren't like any other creatures we've seen before, though there were several we have seen in our trips through the forest. Weary Hawk smiled at Team 8, who were waiting for an answer to their teammate's question. "Those, my young friends, are the spirits of the past guardians, some of their partners, and their loved ones." The 4 members of Team 8 froze in shock at the revealing of the animals they had made contact with. "Guardians, you said, Weary Hawk-san?" Kurenai asked him as though she didn't hear him the first time. "Ha ha ha ha. Yes, guardians. You didn't honestly believe that the Great Tree of Fire has been guarded by myself my whole life, did you?" The old man laughed. "No, I am but another generation of guardians meant to keep the Great Tree safe from harm and evil." Hinata then asked, "Weary-san, were those all the guardians that we saw?" Weary Hawk shook his head at her question. "No, Miss Hyuga, not all guardians and their partners choose to live their spiritual lives inside the forest to care for the Great Tree." Here he stopped to cough into his hand. "Only those who wish to continue helping the next group of guardians will be allowed to stay in the forest as spirits. Such as the 2 deer that came up to you, Miss Hyuga." Those 2 were known as Long Antler and Gentle Grass. Hinata walked in shock, knowing that she had just petted the spirits of 2 people long gone from this world. Shino then decided to ask about the butterfly he had let poke him, and what of the spirit that was near me. That young man was one of the gentlest guardians this forest has ever had. She was known as Colorful Winds. Weary Hawk whispered, Hey, what about those wolves that Akamaru, Bull and I were playing with? Are they some famous guardians as well?" the Inuzuka yelled at the top of his lungs. Weary Hawk laughed at Kiba's loud tone. "No, young pup, those were not guardians, but partners of 2 very strong guardians." "Partners? Like me and Akamaru? So there were Inuzuka guardians as well, right? Since my clan is the only one known to use dogs as partners?" the brown-haired teenager asked. Before Weary Hawk could answer, another voice was heard above them. "Don't think so much of your clan, Runt. They were not the first humans to partner with canines. Where do you think they learned such techniques from?" Team 8 quickly surrounded Naruto and his adopted family, who did not look worried at all. "Who is there? Show yourself and we promise not to hurt you." Kurenai shouted into the darkness. "Oh ho, what is this? The older female thinks she can order the protector of the Great Tree? Who has kept watch over this forest when it was nothing but tall grass on a flat plain?" The voice seemed to purr back in response to Kurenai. Before Kurenai could retort back, she felt a hand drop onto her shoulder. "Have no fear, child, it is but the protector, the oldest and strongest of the tree's warriors," Weary Hawk told her and her team before walking towards one of the lowest branches of a tree covered in darkness. "Strikes in silence, it is good to see you again so soon, my friend." After speaking, Team 8 watched as the shadows themselves seemed to stretch and conform to become some sort of feline-like body. It was a good 5 feet long and was completely black from head to tail. A face also was being created, along with a mouth that gained many sharp teeth and huge round eyes that were completely red. After the short transformation was over, a great black cat laid before them on the branch that Weary Hawk had spoken to. "And it is good to see you as well, Weary Hawk. Has it already been some time since your last visit? It seemed like you and Rose's petals were here only 5 days ago," the great cat asked of the old man before looking at the rest of the group. "Ah, and I see young Maelstrom has come home as well. Hello Maelstrom, it has been too long." "Hello Strikes in Silence, it has been," Naruto replied, bowing to the black feline. Coughing to bring the spirit's attention back to him, Weary Hawk spoke. "It has been only a short time since I've last been here, Silence, and we have come to ask the Great Tree if it would allow my grandson Light in Maelstrom the chance to use its eyes to find his group." Looking back at Naruto, Silence asked him, "You do know of the consequences if the Great Tree senses something about you it does not like, am I correct?" Naruto stood tall as he stared at the shadowy face. "Yes, I do." "Then I have nothing more to say," Strikes in Silence sighed. "You may pass and meet with the Great Tree." And so Strikes in Silence disappeared back into the shadows as a path, lined with blue shining crystals, made itself known to the group of humans and the 2 dogs. "Thank you, my friend," Weary Hawk said to the shadows as the group began leaving. He is a good kid, Weary Hawk, he would do well as your heir. Weary Hawk looked at the group before walking to join them. But it is not his destiny to protect this forest. That lies elsewhere, inside the chamber of the great tree. Holy cow, this place is huge. The sound of Kiba's voice echoed back to the group once they entered the chamber. The chamber itself was a huge clearing with trees seemingly several hundred feet high with huge trunks that would need 10 men to completely encircle them. Vines and drooping branches covered any paths that could be made out around the trees. Also spacing the entire room were many small bright crystals, some no bigger than a quarter, making the room look like a clear night sky. In the center of the chambers there was a much smaller tree, but still its trunk was even bigger than all the trees combined. It sat on top of thick roots that were digging into the ground and into 2 small pools of water that were as still and smooth as a mirror. And in front of this huge tree was a stone platform that had many of those blue crystals sitting and standing on it in a chaotic-looking pattern. The light from the crystals seemed to be the only thing lighting the room, as everything was in a light blue shade of light. Why yes, thank you, Kiba. If you hadn't shouted out to the entire forest where we are, I'm sure they all know we have made it into this room that you shouted in for no apparent reason. Naruto mocked at Kiba, causing Hinata to giggle at the face her friend made. Oh yeah, you as Kiba stopped speaking as Weary Hawk appeared behind Naruto, holding on to his wooden pipe. Ah, who asked you anyway, Dobi, he finished lamely. The entire group then moved as one with Weary Hawk leading the way towards the crystals sitting on the tall, rocky ledge. Naruto, you must go get ready. We will talk to the caretaker, come to us when you're done. Weary Hawk then tossed Naruto something. Catching it, Naruto jumped away to prepare to speak with the great tree. After seeing Naruto jump off into the bushes, Kurenai then turned to Weary Hawk. Sir, who is this caretaker you spoke of? Team 8 seemed to crowd it around both the adults trying to learn more about the room and any of its inhabitants. The caretaker, as the title suggests, is the soul spirit meant to take care of the great tree of fire personally. Weary Hawk spoke as he moved closer to the stone ledge. Her name is Muru, and she, along with Strikes and Silence, is one of the oldest and most powerful of the spirits living inside this section of the forest. Arriving in front of the crystals, he continued, she is considered an oracle among our people, able to show us what will happen in the next few moments after you leave her home. But like the ever-changing winds, even she can be wrong. Weary Hawk then smiled as he stared at the unmoving crystals. She also happens to have a wonderful singing voice, and if asked nicely might even entertain us with one of her songs. Well, isn't that just like you, Weary Hawk? Build my image up, then knock it down, only to flatter me when you have finished. Team 8 jumped when they heard a voice coming from the crystals. What the heck, those things just talked. Are they spirits as well? Kiba asked as he and his teammates continued to stare at the colorful stones. Boss, stupid ninjas, looking underneath my hairless tail. A figure jumped onto the top of the crystals, revealing itself to be a very plump mouse. Greetings, my name is Muru and I am the caretaker of the great tree of fire. The mouse then bowed to the team 8. A rat? This is the caretaker of the great tree? Kiba asked in disbelief. Weary Hawk and Rose's faces drained of any color when they heard what Kiba called Muru. Did you just call me a rat, you little punk? Muru shouted at the young boy before launching herself into Kiba's face. Get your facts straight, boy, I am not a rat, I am a mouse. Ah, help me, get this thing off of me. Ow. And so Kiba came to realize that even a mouse, when angered, could bring down a trained ninja. Sighing, Weary Hawk walked towards the boy, getting his butt kicked by a mouse. Now there will be enough of that. He then plucked Muru off of Kiba's face by the scruff of her neck, giving the poor boy some much-needed breathing time. Muru squeaked out in surprise at the sudden sensation of flying. Hawk, you better not drop me or else I will get Silence to make you his new scratching post. Weary Hawk then placed her back onto her small pedestal, where she soon busied herself fixing and moving her crystals. Weary Hawk then decided to get down to business. I am sorry for the rudeness of one of my guests, Muru, but we have come to ask a favor of you. Now it was Muru's turn to sigh. I know why you have come, Weary Hawk and group. You wish for young Light in Maelstrom to speak with the great tree and hope he can locate his own group, is that about correct? That is pretty much what we have come here for, Muru. Muru nodded her head at the old man before speaking into the air. Are you ready, young Uzumaki Naruto, to meet the great tree? I am. A voice answered from behind the group. When the group turned around, only Team 8 was truly shocked to see Naruto standing there with nothing but a short brown towel that ended above his knees, on. His face was covered entirely in a black coloring with blue spirals sitting on his cheeks, his eyes completely shadowed by a light green paint. On his stomach was another giant spiral covered by other symbols and what seemed to be kanji in a dark red coloring. On both the front of his shoulders were thick blue lines with a white lining that wrapped around his arm twice, before straightening and ending with an arrow-like tip inside his hands. White lines could be seen wrapping around his legs while his hair had orange lightning bolts zapping through it. "Ah, it is about time you joined us, Maelstrom. I had thought you had chickened out on us," Weary Hawk told his grandson. "You know me, grandfather, I always try to look my best," Naruto joked. Naruto-kun is naked. Thump. Hinata had just passed out from seeing her crush in nothing more than his birthday suit, as her young teenage mind was currently in overload. Kurenai ran to her student's side and attempted to wake her up. "Naruto, what the hell, man?" Kiba yelled at his old classmate. Shino pushed his glasses up more on his face as they had slid done seeing Naruto's appearance. "I see that this ceremony, I believe, ask for the one attempting to talk to the tree to become as close as they can to nature, and that means going commando, if that phrase is appropriate?" Naruto nodded towards Shino. "You're correct, Shino-san. That is exactly my reasoning for being almost naked in front of you." "So then what is up with the face coloring then?" Kiba questioned after getting over his shock. "Are those markings needed for talking to the tree?" "Actually no, the tribal paint really has no need to be placed on, but it is done more out of ceremony than anything else. When connected completely to the tree of fire, the paint will begin to crack off and is considered almost an offering to the spirit, since the speaker has to make their own design from scratch." Muru answered the dog ninja. Seeing the marks on Naruto's belly, Muru asked, "How long have you known my child?" "Since the night of my graduation 3 months ago," Naruto replied. "I see." Muru mumbled before speaking clearly, "We'll talk about that later then. There is a platform behind this pedestal that you can kneel or sit on, and that will allow you to speak with the great tree. It is a special place, as that is where the first Hokage sat when he and the Tree of Fire created this forest." Naruto walked around the crystals to see what seemed to be an old tree stump that was about 1.5 feet off the ground and 4 feet across. It was covered in random patches of moss, and he could see that the stump was connected to the big tree from 2 long branches of roots that went underground and acted as the stump's old root system. Naruto sat cross-legged on the stump, rubbing his hand over the top of the stump with awe on his face. "Amazing. It feels so smooth, no rough spots at all, and this power, I can feel it starting to course through my body." As he formed the rat seal, he looked back to the group, where he caught a sight of Muru standing on top of the nest of crystallized stones. "Now why don't we give this old spirit a nice little song to wake up to?" Muru told the entire group before jumping down and moving some of the crystals around. After her rearrangement, Muru stood back and nodded her head at her work. She then tapped one of the crystals that set off a small ringing sound that she hummed too, while swaying back and forth. "Praise for the high tide. Praise for the seaside. Praise for the sun at high noon." As Muru began singing the first 3 verses, Team 8, including Hinata, who had been revived, and Bull, noticed that the small pools of water, which had been flat and calm, were starting to have small ripples appearing on the surface around the many roots. These small ripples also seemed to send out what sounded like chime-like sounds to play for Muru and her song. "Praise for the lightning. Praise for the singing. Praise the Father, Son, and Sister Moon." As more ripples appeared on the pools, the blue lighting also began to dim down, seemingly being sucked into the crystals, who had gone from being blue to many shades of different colors at random. Muru's voice was also getting louder as she continued. "Praise for the red dawn. Grass that we walk upon. Praise for the river's whispered tune." As Muru's song continued, the crystals began to light the chamber into the 3 different colors in accordance with the verses: red, green, then blue. Weary Hawk and Rose were swaying along with Muru as she sang the chant. Even Team 8 was getting into the groove, with Kiba, Akamaru, and Bull more into it out of the entire group. "Praise for the wind brother. Praise for the earth mother. Praise the Father, Son, and Sister Moon." Suddenly the wind began to pick up, blowing leaves and dust into the air, completely circling the tree and the group. As the whirlwind continued circling them, it changed into a chaotic pattern of colors, showing yellow, blue, green, violet, red, and many others around them. Kurenai, Hinata and Shino watched in wonder at the strange occurrence that were going on. Kiba, his partner and Bull were too caught up in Muru's song to notice what was happening around them. Praise the Father Sun, and Sister Moon, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. The two dogs and Kiba then howled together in harmony out of nowhere, causing the others near them to jump at the sudden noise. They continued to howl long and hard as Muru came up to the last lines of her chant. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya. And as the last line was sung, Kiba, the two dogs and everything else began to settle down as well. The huge whirlwind of colors slowly died out and everything looked to be going back to normal, the only exception being that the crystals now had a white coloring and provided the only true source of light in a much darker chamber. All was quiet for a few moments as everyone tried to catch their breaths from a completely wild experience. Whoa, that was truly something else. Kiba spoke up after a few moments. He then turned to look at Akamaru and Bull. I'm guessing you two felt it too? Bull nodded to the young human while Akamaru barked out an agreement that we did runt. It just felt like the right thing to do at the time. Looking at her rowdiest student, Kurenai asked, Kiba, what happened? You, Akamaru, and Bull-san just started howling near the end of Muru-sama's chant? We don't know ourselves, sensei. We just felt something inside of us. It was peaceful and made us feel complete. There is no other way to describe it. Kiba answered his teacher. So, a child of the Inuzuka is here as well. I must admit it has been some time since the elders of your clan came before me, young one. A voice rang out through the large chamber. But it seems, he is not the one who seeks an audience with me. No, there is another on my stump. Who are you, child? The voice was as loud as a waterfall and as deep as the longest cave. It spoke like gravel being crushed under one's feet, yet carried a warm and kind feeling within it. Words would be spoken and then a short pause, as though the speaker was low on breath and needed time to find the correct words needed to speak. What? Who is that? Where is that voice coming from? Kiba shouted while looking around. Muru looked at her crystals in awe. It is the spirit within the great tree of fire. It has completely awoken from its earthly slumber to speak with young Maelstrom. But Muru-san, isn't that what we wanted? The shy Hyuga asked the mouse spirit. Muru shook her head. No, usually when the other guardians came to ask for the tree's help, it was only able to speak to the one on its stump in their minds. Muru shook her head as though to bring herself into reality. The last time the Tree of Fire was fully awake, like so, was when it and Hashirama Senju, your first Hokage, created the forest your people call home. Hearing what Muru said, Naruto closed his eyes and spoke to the wide-open chamber. O great spirit of the Tree of Fire! Hear me now, for I am a child of Mother Earth. I am a son of the Great Spirit who watches over my loved ones, and I come to seek a favor of you, O Spirit of the Great Tree. Silence reigned as the entire group waited for the spirit to answer Naruto's call. The now white crystals brightened when they heard its voice. I see, young one. Though the old man has seen fit to wake me from my slumber for you, I must still have you pass my test. The crystals then dimmed as the spirit awaited his answer. Then give me your question, Tree of Fire. I am not afraid. Naruto yelled at the crystals proudly, sitting up taller with a determined look in his eyes. A deep rumble sounded throughout the chambers when the crystals brightened once more. You should be afraid, young Maelstrom. For those whose answers did not please me, learned the true meaning of pain. The crystals brightened even more before all that light was transferred into the tallest point in the nest. Then without warning, a thick beam of light launched forward faster than the eye could follow, even faster than those with trained eyes, and struck Uzumaki Naruto in his heart. Now, child, let's see if you are truly one of Mother Earth's children? With this beam, Uzumaki Naruto, I can see into your very soul. Choose your words carefully, child, for answering my question wrong might make you breathe your last breath. The beam then lifted Naruto into the air, causing him to dangle with his feet a few inches off the stump, which then encased him inside a cage of white transparent light. Yet despite the discomfort of having what felt like a lead pipe being shot into his chest, Naruto just smiled and grabbed hold of the beam of light with both his hands. Okay, he grunted, shoot. Naruto-kun, Uzumaki-san, Team 8 and Bull yelled as their comrade was stabbed and surrounded by light. Calm yourselves, friends, Maelstrom is perfectly fine. Weary Hawk spoke up, hoping to calm the distressed team and dogs. Kiba growled at Weary Hawk, like hell, we'll calm down. That is our friend old man, and while he acts like an idiot he is our comrade. Kiba then ran forward with Akamaru before stopping in front of Naruto's prison. You ready, Akamaru? The boy asked his canine partner, who barked affirmatively. He then threw a small pill towards his partner, who turned a dark red. Alright, let's go. Jujuin Bunshin no Jutsu. And with a puff of smoke, Akamaru went from a dark red puppy into a more feral version of Kiba, who was also looking feral himself. His nails and teeth grew longer and sharper and their faces were covered in snarls. Hang in there, you idiot, we'll get you out. Kiba called to Naruto, who looked down at him in surprise. Kiba, what are you doing? Back away. Naruto yelled to the dog user. What does it look like? Kiba yelled back. Akamaru on 3. 1, 2, 3. Gatsuga. And the two partners jumped into the air and began to spin. As they spun around faster, chakra gathered around their bodies, forming what seemed to be a giant drill aiming at Naruto's prison. Kiba no stop, but it was too late as Kiba and Akamaru slammed into the light and were launched far away with a great explosion. Arg! Kiba yelled as he landed several yards away from the group. Team 8 ran to their downed teammates. Kiba, Akamaru. Are you okay? Kurenai yelled as she knelt next to her student. The Inuzuka pup should have learned to listen to his elders before he gets more than just a shock. The voice of the Tree of Fire rang out in displeasure. Team 8 watched in horror as the branches from the tree grew in length, stretching down and completely surrounding them with the tips aiming to strike them. Such disrespect. May the Great Spirit forgive your deeds when you see him. No, Naruto yelled at the tree as it prepared to strike his friends. Tree of Fire, they are guests in Weary Hawk's home and know nothing of our ways, please forgive them. You surprise me, little one. Do not forget I can see into your very being. I know that these friends were never really much of friends. In fact, the only time spent with you outside of a classroom is here. The spirit grumbled. Why do you risk yourself for people who barely know you? The blonde grunted as he stared at the nest of crystals. They might have not spent much time as my friends back then, but they have more than enough time to make it up to me. He breathed heavily through his discomfort. Now leave them alone and ask your question. I don't like feeling like a dream catcher. You intrigue me, young one. You have the heart of Mother Earth, as well as her stubbornness. Very well then. Team 8 breathed a sigh of relief as they watched the great tree pull its branches back. Very well. I shall spare the other humans. Shall we take this to a more private plane then? It asked the young hanging ninja. More private plane? Naruto asked, confused before he felt a sudden pull from the inside of his stomach. Yes. The tree's voice rang out. Excuse the tight squeeze. I am a bit out of practice. Naruto's eyes then went blank and his body limp, hanging like a doll with its strings cut, as his friends once more cried out seeing their friend in such a state. Inside Naruto's mind, Naruto opened his eyes as a darkness lifted from his vision, allowing him to check his surrounding. All around him he could see many trees, as sunlight shone through the gaps in the branches. He could smell the earthly scent of the forest and hear the creatures of nature running around. Grass that grew up to his knee covered the forest floor, with the only exception being in a 6-foot diameter circle that he was laying in, and a winding path leading into and through the forest. Where am I? He asked out loud, not really expecting an answer. Suddenly the voice of the great tree spoke to him. Welcome, young Ling, to the crossroad of our minds. Our minds? The blonde asked, looking around himself, trying to find where the voice was coming from. Yes. Follow the path, young one. Come to where I am and be prepared. It answered back before fading into the regular static of life in the forest. Naruto, shrugging, got up and began following the path, hoping to find his answers at the end. He thought to himself, this better be worth bringing me here and not some stupid joke. I assure you, Naruto, this is not some kind of joke. The tree's voice spoke with a light laugh at Naruto's expression. In this plane of the world, everything is heard. Now hurry, young Naruto, if you want to use my sight. Shaking his head, Naruto then began to run along the path. As he followed it, he found that after several minutes the path began leading downhill into a small valley with a river flowing in the middle of it in a seemingly huge cavern built into one of the hills, and several boulders, some huge some small, blanketing the valley floor. Stopping in between the stone cave and one of the boulders, he heard the tree once more. That will be far enough, Naruto. You have done well getting here. Naruto looked around, trying once more to find the source of the voice. Hey, can you at least show yourself? Not to be rude, tree spirit, but I just feel really uncomfortable at the moment. As you wish. A sudden thumping noise came from behind the cave as a being of huge size came from around it. It stood on two legs and looked very much like a tree, except it had a face with two amber-colored eyes staring out of deep black sockets. It was covered in moss and had many branches covering its body. It stood a good 10 feet tall and was 6 feet wide. Is this better? The being asked the genin once it was completely out from behind its cover. Whoa, yeah, that's good enough. Naruto then sat on the ground cross-legged. So this is where this question of yours will be asked. Nodding, the giant remained standing with his arms now crossed. Yes, that is correct. Usually when one seeks an audience, with me I do not awaken. Like I did back in my chambers. They are always brought in here. Into my conscience plane. Or more simply my mind. The great tree then looked at the huge cavern that it was standing next to, though this cave. I do not know where this came from. It contains something very powerful, and full of hate and anger. Naruto stared at the opening of the cavern, at once noticing the thick steel bars and the small almost invisible strands of red chakra leaving the cave and disappearing into the air. Two huge bloodshot eyes opened up and a dark chuckle was heard throughout the forest, causing Naruto to shudder as he came to a realization of just what cave now contained. Kyuubi, he whispered. He, in the flesh meat bag. The Kyuubi yelled from within the cave. Huge claws then crashed upon the gate, stretching out to grab Naruto. Damn this worthless prison. Mark my words, you bit-sized snack, I will devour you when the time comes. The human-like tree then stepped in front of the cage, standing between Naruto and the nine-tailed fox. So it is you, fox. I never thought we would meet like this. The Kyuubi began to look even angrier than before upon seeing the physical form of the great tree. You. What are you doing here? It yelled angrily at the great tree as it began to growl. I am here. On behalf of your host. He wishes for me to grant him domain over my site. The great tree told the nun tales, but he has yet to pass my test. But now I see. I will have to help him more than just giving him my site. The Kyuubi backed up into his prison more. Be that as it may, I don't think I can allow you to let him use my power in the ways of those people. It would be a disgrace to my honor as a demon. The great tree stood firm. You will help your container, fox. Otherwise we could do this the hard way. You know you have very little say. At what this young man can do, with your power. It crossed its arms over its chest, just as the Great Spirit gave you life. He also gave many of his children control. Over you and your kind, you will submit. Naruto slowly began to back away from the two most powerful spirits he had known to date as the great tree commanded the Kyuubi to listen and obey. Yikes, this is getting dangerous. What the hell should I do? He thought to himself, getting ready to flee at a moment's notice if things went worse. He continued to listen as the demon spoke up once more. Kyuubi sneered at the great tree. If you think you have the power to stop me, then go ahead and try, you giant piece of firewood. While I might not yet be able to kill the boy here in his mind. The Kyuubi then grew a huge smile on its face. The seal does not protect others from my wrath. Suddenly a huge vortex of fire left the prison and shot straight towards the great tree. The great tree threw its hands out just as the vortex hit it and was consumed by the flames. As Naruto lowered his arms, he had raised them to block the sudden brightness of the flames. He stood in shock as all he saw was a huge wall of fire in front of him and hearing nothing but the crackling of the Kyuubi no Yoko's insane laughter. Ha 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 ha. Burn, burn you damn overgrown flower. The demon continued to laugh as the fires crackled loudly. Suddenly from the depths of the firestorm, still as foolish as ever, you overgrown fox. As the fire subsided, the Kyuubi and Naruto stared in shock at the huge mound of packed dirt that stood 12 feet tall where the body of the great tree spirit had been. Wow! Naruto whispered as the mound began to break into pieces, slowly showing the great tree spirit, who was covered in soot and some burn marks, showing it had not escaped the attack completely unharmed. The Kyuubi slowly backed away from the bars that separated him from the spirit. No. Impossible. How can this be? It shouted. I am a demon who can control the very essence of fire itself. That attack should have incinerated your body, you should be nothing but ashes. You're right. Normally an attack such as that would have erased a much weaker wood spirit. The great tree spoke, before raising its right hand and pointing it at the river. Naruto also saw that the leg trunks had rooted themselves into the ground. Suddenly its right arm shot towards the river and dived into the deep water. But, there is one thing. You forget about a spirit such as myself. It continued as its body became shrouded by a green aura. I was born from both Mother Earth and the Great Water Spirit. Before the Great Spirit himself breathed life into me. The demon and his jailer watched as the great tree healed right before their eyes. When it was completely healed, the great tree withdrew its arm and uprooted itself from the ground. Now then, Maelstrom, it called to Naruto. Yes, O great tree spirit. Naruto then bowed on his knees to the powerful being before him. What is it you wish from me? We shall now hold your test, let's begin. What, now? But what about him? Naruto asked, looking at the Kyuubi in surprise. The great tree raised a stump mentioning for the young ninja to sit on it, which he did immediately. He is no threat to us, now and will be dealt with soon enough. The Kyuubi whimpered, feeling, for the fourth time in its life, pure fear once more. Naruto brought his attention once more to the tree spirit. I am ready. The spirit sat on both knees in front of him. Good. Now am I to be aware that you remember the teachings of your adopted family? Naruto nodded as he tried to remember all the teachings of the tribes. From hunting, fishing, riding, setting up camp, tracking, and the lessons on the laws and ways of the tribes. He remembered training to speak to the many spirits of the world, connecting with Mother Earth, and giving thanks to the Great Spirit. The many memories of spending time with the medicine men and women as they taught him their healing ways, fortune-telling and magic. Songs, dance, rituals, and prayers, everything came back to him like a huge wave of water crashing down upon him. Seeing the tranquil face on the young man, the spirit nodded. I see. You do remember them, do you not? Though it has been so long, you have never forgotten them. I remember them, Naruto whispered. Good. Now Uzumaki, this is my test. Remember all that you can. You're taught that everything in this world is no different from you and I. Like the plants, we drink from the same water. Like the prey we hunt, we live off the land. Both which give us life. Naruto spoke up. The tree spirit smiled at the human. Correct, young one. What were you taught, child? When you were growing up, what did the elders beat into your brain the second you could stand on your feet? Naruto's face scrunched up as he tried to recall. The elders. They taught us that we must always respect the land. For even when it is plentiful, we must never take more than is desired to continue to live. Sweat poured down his face as he struggled to remember. To always give thanks both to our prey and the spirits for blessing us. To always remember that when Mother Earth is distressed, so are we, who suffer, he finished. Why are you the only ones who suffer? When Mother Earth is distressed or in pain, why aren't the others of this world feeling the same pain? Naruto opened his eyes and looked up at the tree spirit, because they have lost their bond with Mother. They fight amongst themselves, staining Mother Earth with their blood as she watches helplessly as her children fight meaninglessly for small pieces of her. They are no longer able to connect with her, unlike us, who have become so much a part of her and in her a part of us. He then stood up. We are her true children, the ones who remember the old ways and have not abandoned her or our many other spirits. It is because of our connections to Mother and the Great Spirit is why we have survived for so long and prospered. Good young one. You are getting it. And you are correct, but do not let your pride blind you from the true teachings of this world. Calming himself, Naruto bowed his head. Forgive me, O great tree spirit. There is nothing to worry about, my child. But now I only have one more thing to ask you. Answer this truly and you will receive my blessing and maybe even more. The great tree spirit told the teenager. Naruto stood strong, waiting for the spirit to ask. Who are you? Naruto stood stock still as his mind processed the question before shaking himself out of his stupor and gave the best answer he could. I am Uzumaki, light in the maelstrom, Naruto. Ninja of the village hidden in the leaves, student of the old ways. Child of Mother Earth and the Great Spirit, blessed by the spirits of the north, south, west and east winds. He shouted at the top of his lungs. I am a member of the great tribes and future Hokage of the Hidden Leaf Village. One who will never break his promises or betray those close to me. A blue aura surrounded him as red chakra was being sucked from the Kyuubi's prison towards him, turning his blue aura purple. Then the power surrounding him exploded, causing strong winds to uproot several trees and spread dirt and rocks everywhere. Well done, light in the maelstrom. You have passed my test. You may come to me in times of great need at any time. It told Naruto as he fell to his knees, tired from the sudden burst of power. Now, what to do, about you? It turned to the Kyuubi, who tried to hide itself away from the deep eyes of the powerful spirit it had angered. At the farm, a huge golden eagle sat on top of a barn roof as it waited for the owners to show their faces while its master went to prepare itself for the upcoming battle. Soon, everything is falling into place and soon this area will be covered in blood. It turned its head as it noticed the 3 humans and dog arrive at the front entrance to the farm. Team 7 had finally arrived to back up their teammate. Seeing the entire group was tired and relieved to make it to their destination, it thought once more, enjoy your rest as long as you can, fools. You're gonna need it if you want to live a little bit longer. A shiver went up its spine as it heard in the far distance the angry and hungry roar of an animal unleashed from its cage. It was also one of a challenge and would have sent many back to their homes in fear. All it did to him was bring an excited feeling to its body. Oh yes, very, very soon. At the farm, tired, drained, and a bit paranoid Team 7 finally arrives at the gate entrance to Weary Hawk's farm. Finally we're here. I don't think I could go any further. Sakura pants heavily. Who the hell puts a farm all the way out here in the middle of nowhere? Inner yells out inside her head. Sasuke, who is breathing heavily, stands tall trying to catch his breath. Weakling. He thinks to himself as he watches Sakura fall on her butt. So Kakashi-sensei, is this really where the dobi is? He asked the older Junin. Kakashi, who wasn't even winded, looked at his summon Pakun. This is the place, Kakashi. I smell several scents around this gate, but the freshest ones happen to be from Bull, and if I am correct, this Naruto kid you're looking for. The pug tells him as he continued to sniff around the gate. He looked up at his summoner. We should continue on our way, since that farm is just up ahead. Thanking his summon, letting him dispel, Kakashi opened the gate and mentioned for his 2 students to head for the farm. As they walked across the fields, watching as they passed horses and colts running around free, Sakura and Sasuke kept a close eye on their surroundings. It's okay guys, we can relax now. We seem to have left behind the presents long ago. Kakashi told the 2, who instantly relaxed. Though do keep an eye out for Naruto or Team 8, who is also here. Their faces fell at the mentioning of their missing teammate, but perked up at Team 8 since they would get their answers from that team and hopefully prove Naruto wrong. Kinda sad how they have that much hope, huh? Well, let's hurry up and find him. We're wasting daylight and we don't even know why we're here. Sasuke told his sensei. Sakura nodded. Yeah, let's find the idiot, and hopefully Team 8 managed to clean up whatever the problem was since it took us so long to get here. They soon arrived at a smoldering fire pit next to a small fenced boundary, in between a huge wooden house and a group of huge cone-like tents. Kakashi bent down and poked the smoldering fire with a nearby stick. This fire isn't even 30 minutes old, they must have just been here. He explained, looking up and around the seemingly abandoned living area. This makes no sense. They should have known we were on our way, so where are they? He spoke to himself. Do you think they forgot about us and are out in one of the pastures somewhere? Sakura asked her teacher. Sasuke, who had went to look around some more, said, no, I found several tracks of human footprints. They seem to lead past the barn from here and into a section of the forest. Nodding towards Sasuke, Kakashi then stood up. Okay team, let's continue looking around. Pointing at Sasuke and Sakura, I want you 2 to go search those tents over there while I go check the house. After we're done we will follow the trail and seize where it will lead us. Got it? He asked them. The 2 genin nodded and started walking towards the tents as Kakashi turned around and headed for the house. With Sasuke and Sakura. As the 2 approached the tents, Sakura began talking to the Uchiha. So Sasuke, who do you think lives here? She nervously looked around her as they got closer to the tents. Don't know, maybe some old hermit who only comes into Konoha every once in a while. Sasuke decided to answer, hoping she would make herself useful after the question. Sakura nodded at his answer. While that might explain who lives here, that raises another question. How does this person know Naruto? As they came upon the first tent, which was a light brown and several feet tall and a wide base, she rubbed her hands along the outside. It's rough. Like leather and very strong. Who made these? Seeing that the girl wasn't going to shut up, Sasuke decided to just speak to her to pass the time. Who knew, maybe they would figure something out. Frankly, I don't care about the Dobie enough to dig into his personal life, but you raise a very good point. He walked around the tent and found a small flap opening. The Dobie was the only one originally to be heading here, but we got dragged along just because we're his teammates. So it does raise the question of who he knows that the Hokage would not only make him leader but also force us to go along with him. Opening the flap, Sasuke was able to peek into the enclosed area. All he saw was a pile of huge cloths, probably used as a bed area, a pile of furs, several clay paintings on the wall of the tent, bows, arrows, a spear, some other trinkets, and a much smaller fire pit. Whoever this hermit is, he must be very important for the leaders of our village to send another genin team like us here to help him out. He continued, as he looked to the roof of the tent, seeing an opening at the top and several ornaments hanging down from the roof. Several of them were down in a basic design, but each was different in size and decoration. A large circle that was covered in string or yarn with a crisscross pattern happening on the inside of the circle. The patterns met at the center of the circle where a much smaller circle was made out. The ornaments ranged in different colors, size, and even what else was used to decorate them, from beads, stones, and to feathers of different length and birds. He then cut down one of them, hoping that showing it to the older ninja would spark something in Kakashi to help them identify who they were looking for. Walking out, he saw Sakura waiting for him, watching some horses that were grazing nearby. That still doesn't explain how Naruto knows this person, she told him embarrassingly. He nodded. We'll just have to ask the idiot about it then. It's not like this guy is related to him. Laughing about how dumb the person must be if they're related to Naruto, the two continued to the next tent. They found nothing different, except it felt like it had a female touch. There were more of those ceiling ornaments, some more drawings on the walls, and several bowls used for mixing, it seemed. Exiting the tent, they both began to make their way to the farthest and largest tent several yards away. Neither noticing the small group of horses and colts now watching them from several yards, or the lone brown and white stallion that was kicking up dirt the closer the two drew to the tent. Standing at 17.5 hands, the horse was as nearly as tall as Kakashi. Its large brown eyes following the two young ninjas as it debated what it should do, since its rider was not there to defend their home. Finally deciding to confront the two intruders, it lifted itself onto its hind legs with its front legs kicking and giving a large cry, before falling back to all fours and charging. Two other stallions, one mostly brown with a large white patch on its right eye and the other was white with its hindquarters all black, gave the same cry and followed their brother in case he needed aid, from the small herd that Sakura had spotted earlier. As they were several inches from opening the flap, both Sakura's and Sasuke's danger senses went off. This forced the two genin to jump back several feet in order not to be ran over by the galloping horses. Sasuke and Sakura both watched, with kunai in their hands, as the horses circled around the back of the tent before slowing to a stop in front of it. Surprised to see three large horses standing in their ways, the two tried to get closer to them, but the horses flared their nostrils, bared their teeth and continued to give warning to the young man and woman. Sasuke-kun, what do we do? Sakura asked her crush. She was pretty scared as these horses were very scary looking and didn't seem to be on their side. Sasuke looked at the horses. We need to get past them or force them to move so that we can check out that tent. We have orders from Kakashi-sensei and no stupid pack mule is going to get in our way. He growled. Follow my lead, he told her before reaching into his pouch for more kunai and shurikens. Sakura nervously obeyed him, but she began to question his intent. Sasuke-kun, we can't harm them. What if they belong to the client or if he is watching over them for someone? He shook his head. We're just going to try and scare them off. If we have to kill them to get through, then we just make it known that they attacked us without provocation. Self-defense, nothing more, nothing less. Though let's hope that stays as our last option. Smiling at her crush's plan, she prepared to scare the three horses off. With Kakashi, unbeknownst to his student's predicament, Kakashi was inside the two-story settlement. He had already looked through the bottom floor, which seemed to contain a living room, two working bathrooms, and a small kitchen. The kitchen, while not dirty, did look like it had just been used recently, if the dirty dishes were anything to go by. As he made his way up the stairs, he looked outside to check up on his two students just in time to see them leave the first tent and move on to the second. Looks like they haven't found anything interesting yet. Oh well, let's see what's going on upstairs. When he finally reached the top, he noticed that there were at least 4 bedrooms. Looking into the first 2, he noticed that there always seemed to be 2 beds along with 2 small dressers, but other than that they were just really clean and taken care of. Coming up to the 3rd bedroom, he noticed once more 2 beds and dressers, but the 2 beds looked as though they were used recently. Taking a sniff, he caught the scent of a dog, a human scent mixed with a dog, and pheromones of many insects. I see, so the Inazuki and Aburame shared this room? And it seems that boys are still boys even coming from the Aburame clan. He thought to himself, seeing 2 packs belonging to 2 boys at the end of the beds along with clothes seemingly piled here and there. Leaving the boys' rooms behind, he checked the final bedroom, which like the last showed signs of living but was much cleaner. And this is where Kurenai-san and Hyuga-san stayed. Signs of life yet no life to be seen. Walking into the middle of the room, he looked around. This makes no sense. From the smell, we had just missed them. No note, no welcome party. They had to remember we were on our way if Naruto showed up first. Grabbing his head in frustration, damn it Naruto, where did you guys go? What happened that you left here but left nothing but footprints behind for us to find? Suddenly a scream managed to be heard from outside and he raced towards the window. Luckily both the boys' and girls' rooms were facing the front of the house and not the back. As he looked through the window, he noticed Sakura was on the ground kneeling next to Sasuke, who looked as though his chest was in pain. Ah crap, what now? He yelled as he backed up and tried to run and jump through the window. Only for the window to hold against him and throw him back. Rubbing his head, he once more yelled, "Why does the day not seem to be going my way?" He then threw a kunai with a weak explosive tag attached to it before diving behind a bed. Fuck it, they can bill me later. As the explosive went off, blowing a decent size hole into the building, he jumped through and then launched himself next to his 2 students. Seeing the Uchiha in pain and 3 horses in front of a large tent, he asked aloud, "What in the Kami's names happened here, Sakura?" Shaken over what had happened, she answered honestly, "Sasuke-kun and I were doing our orders, but before we could search that tent, these 3 came out of nowhere. They wouldn't let us pass, so Sasuke-kun wanted to try and scare them off. First we tried throwing kunai and shurikens, but they didn't budge." She shivered as she looked down Sasuke, who was breathing heavily. He then turned on his Sharingan, thinking he could either cast a small genjutsu or just maybe hypnotize them just enough to let us pass unharmed. She continued, "And for a moment we thought it worked. The middle horse had turned around so that its back was turned to us, but when Sasuke-kun got close, its hind legs jumped up and struck him in the chest. Easy Sakura, he'll be fine. We just have to get away from here," Kakashi told his only female student as she broke down, while watching the 3 horses. "These damn stupid pack mules. Why did they attack us? We did nothing to them." As her anger took control of her, she pulled out several shurikens. "Damn you. You damn useless animals." She threw the stars at the horses, and while most missed their main target, the brown and white one, several did strike the brown horse with the white patch. This caused the horse to cry out in pain and shock, and forcing the last 2 to turn their attention towards the 3 ninja and charge. Damn her. Why did she do that? I can't move Sasuke fast enough without hurting him more, Kakashi thought before jumping in front of his team, waiting for the oncoming charge. Luckily the Lady Luck decided to send help for the poor teacher. "Hidalgo, eta, that is enough," a female voice cried out, as a figure appeared in front of Kakashi and his team. Kakashi stared in shock as a girl, no older than 12, appeared before him as the 2 galloping horses came to a screeching halt just inches from them. What the hell just happened? No way this is actually happening. While his thoughts were in turmoil, the young girl moved towards the 2 still pissed off stallions. "Hidalgo." She identified the brown and white one. "Ada," she called to the white with black hindquarters. "Whoa, hold on there, young lady. Don't get too close, these 2 are dangerous." Kakashi tried to warn her, but he flinched when not only did the 2 horses bared their teeth at him, she glared at him with pure anger. "I will have you know, Mr. Shinobi, that I have been riding these 2 since I was but a small child." She spoke in an even voice. "The only thing that is dangerous here is you 3. She turned back and started petting the stallions as they shook their heads and snorted, "Calm yourselves, old friends, please, for my sake. I know they are strangers and you did well, but they are no danger to us. Calm yourselves." Limping forward was the one that Sakura had hit. It neighed in pain when it was finally close enough. "Oh Muklik, not you," she cried as she rushed forward to the now no Muklik, who had 3 shurikens stuck into him. "Oh, you poor dear. Don't worry, Brother Maelstrom and Grandfather Weary Hawk are on their way now. Lay down, my friend, and rest." She coaxed the injured animal. "Hey, leave that brute alone and help Sasuke-kun." Sakura yelled at the young girl as she watched her help the horse lay on its side. Turning towards Team 7 once more, she yelled, "Why should I help any of you 3 out? You who have invaded our homes, desecrated it with your weapons, and who attempted to harm my horse." She walked right up to Sakura and Sasuke and kneeled next to the latter. "Just help him, you bitch. I swear if you don't, you will face criminal charges for denying aid to a Konoha shinobi. As a Konoha citizen, you have no choice," Sakura declared loudly, only to find herself flying backwards from a simple punch in the face, leaving a huge red bruise. "What the hell? How dare you strike me? You'll pay for this." The young girl looked at her without fear. "I have no fear about your laws, for I am out of their reach thanks to certain traits of one treaty my kind and Konoha have agreed to." Sasuke turned his head from where he saw Sakura land to face the girl currently sitting next to him. "What's your name, girl?" As the girl stared at him, she answered, "I am known as Rose's Petals, granddaughter to Weary Hawk, owner of this land, and sister to Light in the Maelstrom and Talons of the Plains. My name is Uchiha Sasuke of the Uchiha clan," he told her with an arrogant smirk on his face. "She's strong, and now that she knows who I am, she will fall for me just like all those other useless women. Only she is different and stronger than them. She will be perfect. And I am supposed to care why?" she asked confusingly. He smirked even more at her. "As the last of my clan, it is up to me to repopulate it someday. I have decided that you will help me with my quest. Don't even think about it, Teme. Someone has already caught her heart and you're not him." A new familiar voice made itself known. Turning to look, Team 7 saw Naruto, Bull, Team 8, and an old man standing not too far from them. Though the old man did not seem to care about Team 7 so much, as he was currently looking at the huge hole where the 2 females of Team 8 slept. Sasuke growled, "Oh yeah, Dobi, and who would that man be?" "You? As if, Teme. I'm just her older brother." Team 7 stood in shock over this bit of unknown news. "Naruto Baka, stop lying, there is no way you two are related." Sakura yelled as she looked between Naruto and Rose. "Well, actually he's her adopted older brother," Shino corrected. "Ha, then you have no say in who marries her, Dobi. I will take her as my bride, and there is nothing you can do about it once the council hears about this." Sasuke replied, thinking he had won himself a strong bride. As a shadow cast itself over him, so did his chances of owning her get lost in the darkness. The old man from before was standing over him. "As a matter of fact, young man, not only does he get a say, but so does her other brother and myself." "And just who are you, old man?" The old man stared hard at the Uchiha, causing him to shiver. "I am known as Weary Hawk, owner of all you see before you, member of the Wandering Tribes, and grandfather to Rose's Petals, Light in the Maelstrom, and Talons of the Plains. But I guess you can also call me your new boss." As Team 7's eyes widened at being caught unaware, Weary Hawk turned to Rose. "You will start a fire and help Maelstrom with cleaning and healing Muklik with his injuries. My tools are in my tent, and make sure to bring plenty of water and towels." As Rose got up, he stopped her. "Also, if you can?" he asked as he reached into Sasuke's pocket and pulled out the ornament he had taken. "Put this in my teepee somewhere, please. This is the Dreamcatcher Talon sent me last winter, and I would hate to lose it." Nodding to her grandfather, and glaring at Sasuke, she ran to Naruto and told him to get ready to help Muklik. When Naruto nodded to her, she ran to her and Weary Hawk's Tippus. "Now what should we do with you 3? Who have caused much unrest and destruction to our home when I requested your help?" he asked. As Team 7 tried to think of a way to explain themselves, another voice did it for them. "I don't know about the rest of you, but how about you just kill them and be over it? It will save my master the trouble of picking these weakling apart himself." A voice was heard by everyone. Turning towards the fence post, their eyes came upon a golden eagle that cleaning itself. Lifting its head up and noticing everyone staring at it, it spoke once more, "Oh, I'm sorry. How rude of me for butting into the conversation, but I have grown tired of waiting for one of you to return." It bowed its head while spreading its wings apart. "My name is Raging Winds, and I am partnered to the one known as Roaring Bear." Hearing a slight intake of breath, everyone turned to Weary Hawk as his face paled at the name. "No, he can't be here. It's not possible." Naruto looked to his grandfather. "What's wrong? Who is this roaring bear? I assure you very much Elder Weary Hawk. He is very much alive, my partner, and your youngest son. In Konoha, Hokage's tower. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, was sitting in his office having tea with his 3 old teammates, Mitokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu. Homura set his tea down on the small coffee table in front of the couch he and his female teammate were sitting on. So, young Uzumaki has probably arrived at the farm right about now. Hiruzen? The third Hokage took a sip before answering. He should be there since he left before his team and the sun has gone down. He took another sip, though I am a bit worried. Looking at her now, Hokage teammate Kaharu asked, "What worries you, Hiruzen?" Weary Hawk is there, not to mention Hitaki Kakashi, Yuhi Kurenai, and both their teams. But Weary Hawk has never requested Naruto for anything since he sent him to live in Konoha. Especially when he already had a team there for some D-rank missions. Sarutobi told his teammates, not to mention that he only requested Naruto and the urgency to upgrade the mission from a high D to a low B rank. I just don't like this. There's something he isn't telling me. Both Homura and Kaharu shake their heads and sigh at their old teammates' worry. Homura decides to slump down in the couch before speaking in a tired voice. Look, Hiruzen, Weary Hawk has always been this way. You know how the tribesmen work, they are very secretive people. If he doesn't want you to know something, then it's for a good reason. He told the third. Banging his withered old hand onto the table, the third shouted, "But these are my ninjas. My soldiers and the child heirs to some of the most influential clans in Konoha. Those children are the future of our home, and if they are in any sort of danger I need to know." "Calm yourself, old friend, I am sure they will be perfectly fine," Kaharu told her teammate quietly, "but if you feel so, why don't you send someone else then to back them up?" "I already have." Kaharu and Homura looked at their teammate questionably as the third gave a small embarrassed chuckle while rubbing the back of his head. "Hiruzen, you didn't. Sai, I'll go tell his troops, and Inuzuka-sama. Homura, you go fill out a mission form," Kaharu said, finishing her tea quickly before getting off the couch and leaving the small office. Homura put his head in both his hands as he massaged his scalp for the incoming headache. "Hiruzen, why didn't you just send Kaharu? It would have been easier to get her back at least," he asked his old friend. Didn't want the young ones to be scarred for life if they happened to walk in on Kaharu and our old friend Weary Hawk getting reacquainted. Good point. Weary Hawk's farm, guest house. Okay, is anybody else freaking out? The pink-haired genin of Team 7 shouted. Team 8 and their sensei stared at her with wide eyes. The genin had never seen Sakura this freaked out even when they went to the academy, and Kurenai was shocked at the girl's outburst. What is up with this girl? She has almost no discipline and is now screaming at the top of her lungs. Damn Kakashi, you better get back in here soon, Kurenai thought to herself as she looked at the stairs where Kakashi had taken Sasuke to rest and heal up. Her prayers were answered when Kakashi came down the steps with Bull at his side. "Masakura-chan, what are you yelling about? Sasuke needs his rest and your yelling isn't helping him at all." Hoping her sensei would understand her behavior, she blurted, "Kakashi-sensei, those two are members of the dangerous wandering tribes. We need to get out of here." Confusion surrounded the group as they stared at Sakura like she spoke in another language. Sakura stared back as the group did not act in the way she thought they would. "Hello, didn't anybody hear what I just said? We need to get out of here." Kiba spoke up. "Oh, we heard you, Sakura, but we just would like to know why." Shino nodded his head. "We have been here for a bit longer than you, Haruno-san, and we see no reason for us to abandon our mission just because they are part of this wandering tribes group." Sakura was shocked as she saw Kakashi, Kurenai, and Hinata agreed with Kiba and Shino. Kakashi tried to reason with his only female student. "Sakura-chan, if this is about Sasuke and that girl, then you have to forget about that. Sasuke is going to be okay, and that girl said she wasn't interested in him." "No, that's not it," she said, shocking the group. "Okay, maybe that's part of it." This caused the group to groan and Kakashi to hold his head in his hands. Shino decided to get straight to the point. "Okay then, Haruno-san. Please explain why we should leave, if you will. Weary Hawk and his granddaughter have been great hosts to us and have done nothing deceitful to us while we've been here." "Yeah, Sakura, why you going all crazy over this?" Kiba asked Sakura. Sakura sighed before telling them, "Before my father married my mother, he was a traveling merchant. He used to tell me many stories of his travels around the world. but there were ones that he used to scare me when I was misbehaving. The group leaned in closer as Sakura looked around, making as though she was afraid of being overheard. Sakura's story. My father had just joined a caravan of merchants traveling from Wind Country to the village known as Taki, or village hidden in the waterfall. They had just passed through the land of rain and had entered the land of grass. He told me that the area they had entered had fields of very tall grass. Grass so tall that it came to right where a full-grown man's chest was, sometimes even higher. He was riding next to a worker that he had hired in Wind Country called Jisaku, who had already more experience traveling the world alongside of his brothers Shako and Kofu. Jisaku and his brothers were both very tall, all three standing 6 feet with dark skin and long hair that flowed down to their shoulders. The only way you could tell them apart was the color of their eyes. Jisaku had dark green eyes, Shako had brown eyes, and Kofu had a kind of golden amber color eyes. Sitting in a wagon next to Jisaku, who was driving the oxes, my father, who was barely pushing 5 feet 6 inches, looked at Jisaku, who was sweating and looking around into the sea of grass surrounding them. Hoping to find the problem with his worker, he asked Jisaku what was wrong. Jisaku whispered, "We should not be here, we are trespassing in their lands." He spoke no more to my father after that, instead keeping his eyes on the tall grass. Seeing he wasn't going to get any more out of Jisaku, my father turned to Kofu, the youngest of the three. "Kofu," he asked, "what has gotten your brother so nervous? Surely you know, correct?" Kofu looked at my father and had the same nervous look as Jisaku. "Boss, the reason my brothers and I are so nervous is because of the men who hide in the grass." "Men who hide in grass? Do you mean Kusa ninjas? Why would you be nervous about them? We are but a travel merchant caravan. There is no need to worry about any of those fellows, my good friends." My father laughed, thinking those were the people they were talking about. Kofu shook his head at my father's assumption. "No boss, it is not ninjas we are looking out for. You must remember, sir," he looked out towards the tall grass like his brother, "there are people much more dangerous than those you call shinobi." Jisaku then yelled out something in a strange language to his other brother Shako, who ran up to the side of the wagon. Jisaku and Shako both spoke in the strange language for several seconds, after which Shako raced forward to the front of the caravan. My father asked Kofu to translate what was said between the two, to which he replied, "My brother does not like being here. He believes we should turn back, before we find ourselves in a situation we cannot escape from." Shako returned several minutes later with an angry expression on his face. He spoke to Jisaku, who in turn became angry himself and let loose what was surely a long string of cuss words. Once more father turned to Kofu, who was angry himself, and asked him what was wrong once more. "My brother went to the trail boss and told him that we should turn around," Kofu began, "but the trail boss is a stubborn bastard who believes he can travel wherever he wants and has no worries about others' feeling and traditions." Kofu spat on the ground, but what he did, know what he said, has caused my brothers to want to abandon this soon-to-be forsaken caravan and head back. "What did he say?" my father asked Kofu. Kofu looked at my father with a look that could crush steel. "He called my brothers and I in guest house." Naruto's voice rang out in the silent room. "He called them kafir asterisk, didn't he?" Everyone turned in shock to see Naruto and Rose standing there at the door. Both teens were covered in sweat and Rose was looking a little pale. Kakashi stood up. "Naruto, what were you doing? When you ordered us to go and stay in the guest house you didn't follow?" he asked a student. "I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei." Naruto bowed to his teacher, "but if you remember, the horse Muklik had several shurikens implanted into him, thanks to Sakura. I was told by my grandfather to fix him up along with Rose here, since she has never had to deal with wounded horses." "Oh," Kakashi said, "but that still doesn't explain why you both sweaty and little Rose here looks like she's about to throw up. Surely the big guy only need a couple of stitches?" "He's right, Naruto. What took you so long?" Kiba asked. "My sister is a vet and she has dealt with animals like horses before." "It never took her this long?" Shaking his head, Naruto told Kiba. "Kiba, the most your sister probably ever had to deal with concerning a horse was an upset stomach or maybe a broken leg." He turned to Kakashi. "And unlike Kiba's sister, we aren't equipped with stitches and other such equipment professional vets used." "Well then, what did you use?" Kurenai asked them as Naruto sat on the window ledge. Rose shook silently, standing in front of the closed front door, as Naruto answered, "We had to cauterize the wounds, after pulling out the metal and cleaning the space, with a very hot piece of steel we had in the barn. Everyone paled after hearing how Naruto and Rose had to close the wounds which hadn't seemed, to them at least, very life-threatening. What the hell, you idiot? Those wounds that dumb animal was given shouldn't have been that serious. Sakura yelled at the top of her lungs, causing Kiba, Akamaru, Bull, and Kakashi to wince at her volume. Like my brother Maelstrom said, you pink-haired harpy, we don't have the necessary equipment like those professionals in Konoha do. Rose yelled back at Sakura, on this farm we make do with what we can with what we know. Sure, we could try to bring vets here to the farm, but that would take time and money. She shook her head as tears came out slowly. Trust us, it is not something we enjoy doing. Muklik is my horse and has been by my side for many years now. He was the first horse I had ever ridden on my own, and he will accept no other to ride on his back. When I was little, grandfather and Maelstrom would send me to my teepee whenever one of the horses were injured and they had to work quickly to help it heal. She continued, whether it was a broken leg or something much worse, I would always hear the screams. The screams of the horse in pain as they set the leg back, or if one of them fell down and landed on a stray pole or fence post. Or during mating season and some of the stallions would fight, breaking skin or causing harm to some of the mares and colts. Sakura sneered, well, that animal deserves to die after what it did to Sasuke-kun. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that thing turned out to be sick and had to be put down. Wouldn't want all the other animals here to catch its sickness now, would we? Thinking that since she had her team there nothing bad would happen, Sakura began waltzing towards the door, and since the animal will probably be put to death anyway as compensation for Sasuke-kun's injuries, let's just get this over with and save the village council the time, shall we? She said as she was about to walk past Rose. Unfortunately for Sakura, Rose was not going to let her just walk right out the door. As Sakura walked past, Rose turned around, kicking Sakura's knees out, causing her to fall onto her knees, and grabbed her long pink hair, pulling it to its limit as high as it would go. Just as quickly she reached into her shirt and pulled out a hidden thread necklace that had a sheath and a small blade hanging from it upside down. Nobody moved as Rose undid the strap to the sheath and pulled the small dagger from its holding place. The blade itself was about 5 inches in length with an extra 3 inches for the handle. It had a pearl-like color to it, with serrated edges giving it a saw-like appearance. Rose put her head next to Sakura's as she laid the blade directly on her jugular. You will go nowhere near my horse, outsider. Understand that you and that so-called Uchiha will pay after all this is over if Muklik dies of infection or if any more harm comes to him. Rose soon felt a hand grip her shoulder and slowly dragged her upright. Turning around, she stared into the cold, hard eyes of her older brother, who, if at all anything, was not pleased at her actions. Rose's petals, you will control yourself, is that understood? I will not have you loses yourself to the bloodlust, since you will be needed soon. Naruto told Rose in a stern voice that left no room for arguments. Rose let go of Sakura's hair and angrily stomped out of the guest house and into the now dark yard. Sighing, Naruto turned to the entire group. Okay, I will be right back after I calm her down. There is food in the kitchen, so I suggest you fill up. We never know when the enemy might strike. He sighed once more. Though this will be the first time ever facing a threat like this, I am asking you all to please do as I say, and hopefully we can all go home alive. He turned to Sakura, who was still in shock on the floor. Haruno-san, stand up and get ready, we don't have time to waste about yours and the Uchiha's pride at the moment. You will follow orders, and if you try to get anywhere near the barn I will take you out myself. He yelled at Sakura, who jumped at his voice and quickly set about getting ready. As Naruto was about to leave, he heard Bull call out his name, Uzumaki-san. I have told Kakashi about as much as I was allowed by you and your family. I wish you luck and hope to work with you in the near future. Nodding his head at the large bulldog, Naruto thanked him and wished him safe journey on his way home. Bull, on the other hand, what I've seen here today, kid, has been one of the greatest moments in my life. Too bad very few people will ever know that. Bull then disappeared into a cloud of smoke, leaving a confused Kakashi and Sakura behind as Team 8 went into the kitchen and Naruto left through the door. Nobody took notice of the black-haired genin standing at the top of the staircase listening in on the entire conversations. So Rose's petals is her name, huh? The young man chuckled to himself quietly as he thought about the young strong girl who was now in his sights. Be aware, Rose, though you might be covered in thorns, I will enjoy tearing away your defenses till you are mine. Uchiha Sasuke then walked into the room he and Kakashi would be staying in. After all, it wouldn't sit well if he were to miss out on fighting a strong opponent and a chance to impress Rose and her grandfather, now would it? Outside the guest house, Rose was squatting in front of the two tipis Sakura and Sasuke had searched through earlier, poking a large campfire with a long piece of wood to keep it from going out. She took several deep breaths as she tried to calm herself down before she heard someone sit down on the other side of the fire. Looking up, she saw her adopted brother sitting cross-legged with his arms folded across his chest as he stared at her with a small sad smile on his face. "I know it is not easy to control your feelings right now, sister, but please do try for me, will ya?" he asked her quietly, forcing Rose to look at the ground in shame. She fell back onto her butt and drew her legs to her chest. "I am sorry, brother, it's just that girl, she annoys me so much." She waited for his response, expecting him to scold her and defend his teammate, but what she got instead was a small chuckle which then grew and grew before it became a full-blown-out laugh that had him on his back. After finally catching his breath, he looked at the shocked face of his sister. "Yeah, trust me, she is very annoying, and I have no doubt that you would kick her ass from here to the land of stone several times before you want to break." "So you're not mad at the way I acted in there?" she asked him. Naruto shook his head. "No, dear sister, if you can't be mad at me for leaving you so long ago, then how could I ever get mad at you for protecting something you love?" Laying back on the ground with his hands linked behind his head and right leg crossed over his bent left leg, he stared up at the stars that now littered the dark sky. "I actually expected you to do much worse to her before I stopped you, to be honest." Rose looked at him once more in shock. "Brother." Naruto sighed before telling her, "But I'm glad you didn't, seeing as how Kakashi-sensei and I would have been up to our necks in even more paperwork if one or both of my teammates had died out here on my first leadership mission." Naruto closed his eyes and he grew comfortable on the soft earth, relieved at feeling something so ingrained into his body and a part of him once more. Using his connection with Mother Earth, he felt the energy of all that lived on the farm and in the surrounding forest, from Team 8 and 7 in the house, to his grandfather and the golden eagle in the council teepee, and all the other animals that were now put away into the barn sleeping quietly. He felt Rose stand up and walk over to his left side before she laid down with her head resting upon his stomach, like she used to do when she was very little and she sought him for comfort during the dark nights. Naruto lifted his hand and rested it on her head, slowly rubbing her temple like he used to do. He stopped though once he heard her voice in his head. "Brother, I am very worried right now. Touched by Clouds and the others have not yet arrived from their hunting trip and I cannot seem to connect with Touched by Clouds anymore." Naruto lifted his head, eyes wide open, and looked at his younger sibling in shock. Rose simply smiled nervously at the attention he was giving her for showing one of the many techniques she knew. Keeping his hand on her head, Naruto used the same techniques she used, but he now had a huge smile on his face. "You've finally managed to learn Katari Kyoki technique?" Rose's petals slowly nodded her head, hoping she would make her brother proud of her. "I did, but not only did I learn it, I have managed to completely master it to the point where I don't have to make contact with Touched by Clouds anymore." Her face fell once more into sadness at not knowing where her spirit partner was anymore. Seeing her face, Naruto put a hand under her chin and turned her head so that she was looking into his eyes. "Worry not about Touched by Clouds, little sister. I am sure she is completely fine and safe wherever she is right now. Besides, you said she was out hunting with two others this morning, one of whom is her father and spirit partner to our grandfather. There is no need to worry." Sensing that her brother was right, she once more curled up next to him. "Thank you, brother, for your words of wisdom. I just pray to the Great Spirit you are right." Taking his hand off of her head, Naruto thought to himself, "So do I, dear sister, so do I." Naruto then fell back into Mother Earth's embrace, resting but aware of all around him, before putting his hand on her head and continuing to speak with Rose's petals within the privacy of their minds. Inside the council tent, Weary Hawk sat across from Raging Winds, who was resting on a small perch designed for other winged creatures like himself so that they could rest in the tent. Raging Winds was finishing up a cooked piece of meat that Weary Hawk had given him as a sign of peace when they had entered the teepee in order to relax the bird before any words could have been spoken. "You surprise me, Weary Hawk. I come bearing a great evil onto your home and those living here at the moment, and yet you see fit to fatten me up like a stuffed pig." Weary Hawk pulled out his pipe and lit some of his favorite tobacco inside it. Taking a deep puff before releasing a wisp of smoke, he spoke to the golden eagle. Trust me, Raging Winds, if I had wanted you stuffed like a pig, I would have fired an arrow through that little head of yours the second you told me who your partner was. But since you are not attacking us at the moment, we could consider this nothing more than a meeting between two acquaintances swapping stories over a small fire. Raging Winds picked at his breast feathers a bit before turning his attention to the withered old man, to true. So tell me, why did you ask me here? Do you hope to gain some insight into your youngest son's head? Raging Winds chuckled a bit, wondering why the old man had him in this place. No, I want to know how he has been. Weary Hawk told the eagle. Raging Winds was shocked at the sincerity of Weary Hawk's tone and decided to answer the old man anyway. He has been well since that day he was banished from the tribe, since that day on the cliff. He is extremely angry, thinking that he was the one who was betrayed by them and by your family. I expected as much, Weary Hawk sighed out. I wish there had been another way, but I have no one to blame but myself for what happened. Raging Winds asked Weary Hawk, why don't you tell me how this all started? Though I have been his partner for many years, I was not there at the beginning. He told me he stole me when I was but an egg from another group of tribesmen long after his banishment. Very well. Weary Hawk's flashback. Once a long time ago, I was a well-respected member of our traveling tribe who grew up in the Land of Fire territory at the time. I had traveled the world. I was there when the Great Tree of Fire and the first Hokage Senju Hashirama and his brother helped build Konoha, and I became friends with 4 young aspiring genin of that time. One who would grow to become the 3rd Hokage and his counselors who were his teammates. The 4th genin would grow into a strong man whose power and position in Konoha's government was on equal footing with the counselors and worked from the shadows, answering only the Hokage. I spent many years there in Konoha helping the old guardian of this forest we now sit in, maintaining and keeping those who would aspire to use the Great Tree of Fire's power to bring darkness down upon the lands. When I was eventually told I would become the next guardian after the old one had passed on, I was forced to leave Konoha behind and head for my tribe, who had traveled to the north looking for more wide open plains to hunt and survive. While there I met the woman who was to be my wife. She was an amazing creature. She had the longest flowing hair. It was like the waterfall at the Valley of the End. Her eyes were as brown as the earth, as well as her skin, which was flawless. We were married within the year after I had proven myself worthy of her beauty by climbing the tallest mountains that contained a rare blue rose and bought it back before it wilted and died. After many more years and my training going well, she gave birth to 3 sons. The oldest was called Running River, for he was never able to stay still and had boundless energy. He was skilled with horse training and riding, while also being able to throw and handle a spear like no other member of the tribe. My second son was called Seeing Farther. He grew into a scout for the tribe, always looking for our prey or warning us of incoming arrivals. He was well trained in the bow and arrow because of his amazing eyesight, and wisdom beyond his years helped him to calm situations that would have involved many dangerous scuffles in the tribe. But my third child, he was called Sleeping Bear. You know him by his new name, Roaring Bear. Don't let his name fool you. He was neither lazy nor sleepy all the time. He was indeed a bear, though in the sense that he was very strong. Though he was the youngest, he could wrestle the 2 older ones into submission whenever they got rowdy with each other. Sleeping Bear grew up to be one of the finest medicine men the tribe had ever had. His skills became so well known that stories of his triumphant reached out to nearby towns and the other tribes, who soon came looking for his skill. He would leave and travel the world when he was but 17 summers old, along with his 2 brothers, Running River, who was 20 summers at the time, and Seeing Farther, who was 18 summers. They would face many trials along their journey, from facing dangerous creatures to traveling into parts unknown. After 5 summers of not seeing them, they came back to the tribe world weary and full of knowledge. And while my 2 oldest, Running River and Seeing Farther, told of their great accomplishments and many stories from their travels, Sleeping Bear did not. He stayed away from the campfires and the retelling of his trials for many days, until I finally asked him why he had not joined with his brothers in their celebration. His dark eyes looked at me with such a stony look that it truly frightened me about what had become of my youngest, who seemed to carry a great weight upon his shoulders. He told me, why should Sleeping Bear join his brothers in celebration when Sleeping Bear can do nothing but remember all the pain and suffering he saw while on our adventures? Tell me, Weary Hawk, how does one celebrate with all the lives Sleeping Bear couldn't save in his dreams? He walked away from me after that and I let him go, thinking to myself that he would recover in time and go back to the ways he was before. And after many summers he did go back a little to his old self, but he never lost the look he gave me that night long ago. Eventually my sons began their own families and were soon on their way to becoming legends among our people for their extraordinary talents in their fields. But everything changed on one day. On that day began my son's greatest torment and my greatest failure. Seeing Farther and Sleeping Bear were traveling to a nearby village to trade some of our unused skins for medicine and supplies. Walking with them was Seeing Farther's son Puma's Pa, who was just 7 summers old. They had traded and gathered their supplies and were about to exit the town when the town became under attack from a band of bandits. My sons fought valiantly against the overwhelming odds and they soon managed to help push the bandits out of the town, but not before one of the bandits had managed to strike down Puma's Pa, who had run out of his hiding place believing the battle was over. Soon my 2 sons gave in to their bloodlust and rage and called upon the dark spirits to give them great power to chase and destroy the bandits who had ran away. They chased and killed each bandit one by one, ripping them to shreds until the last one. But the destruction of the bandits did nothing to sat their growing bloodlust. Soon they began tearing up the forest before turning on each other. For 2 days they fought each other with their bare hands before they came upon a river. They attempted to drown each other, but Sleeping Bear managed to gain the upper hand and stuck Seeing Farther's head under the cold water and let him struggle until he struggled no more. My son then gave an evil roar of victory and the dark spirits consumed his body and soul, turning him into what he is today. He soon made his way back to the tribe, when he gathered his mind once more, and he told us that the bandits had killed Seeing Farther and Puma's Pa. Yet I knew that wasn't the whole truth, but I had refused to believe anything less of my son and completely turned my back to the problem. As the months went by since the incident, our group was plagued by disappearances and deaths, while my son began to disappear for days on end only to show up when the incidents were done and over with. Others began to believe that he was the cause of the disappearances and deaths, but I refused to believe it and defended my son from the wrath of the tribesmen. It wasn't until Running River became suspicious about his brother's attitude and began following him around. One night he followed Sleeping Bear and witnessed his horrible transformation under the sight of the full moon. My son raced back as soon as his feet could carry him and told me of my son's evil power. At first I could not believe it until he took me to where he had last seen Sleeping Bear had transformed and had me search the area. I smelled the earth and caught his scent. I saw his tracks and watched as they changed from man to beast. Finally the truth was shown to me when a huge beast came through the trees and attacked us head-on. I saw pieces of clothing that my son had worn earlier in the day, the necklace of warthog tusk his own son had given him around the beast's huge neck. We fought as one, my son and I, against the son who would have been as famous as the slug Sanin Tsunade had he not fallen into the evil. But as hard as we fought, it was not enough. That night I lost 2 sons while I was left alive injured on the side of the cliff our battle had taken us to. Running River had tackled the huge beast off of the edge, but he had tackled him at such a high speed that he too went flying with the beast. I stood there in shock as I heard their screams echo off the walls of the canyon and into the earth below. My fellow tribesmen soon came upon my shocked body and helped carry me back to my tribe, while they sent 2 members off to retrieve the body. After I came out of my shock, my friends and fellow tribesmen had already given my son Running River a warrior's funeral while Sleeping Bear's body was nowhere to be found. Present-day council tent. After that day I was sent here, in exile, after the old guardian had died and I did not fight against the wishes of the tribal council. Weary Hawk told Raging Winds. I always knew he was out there somewhere licking his wounds, but I never thought I would have to face him again. I see. Raging Winds told Weary Hawk. Knowing that he had to leave before his partner grew restless and attack all there, he decided it was time to go. Well, Elder, it has been fun, but since I have already relayed my message I must be going now. Nodding his head, Weary Hawk got up and opened the flap, allowing Raging Winds to fly out. Though I wish things had been different, Brother of the Skies. The Great Spirit seems to want this family feud to end tonight. Raging Winds flew out the open passageway and hovered above the tent. The next time we meet, Weary Hawk, we will be enemies, and though like you wish this was different, there is nothing we can do to stop it. But I can at least give you a chance for a fair fight. We attack at midnight, you have a few hours to prepare. And with that said, Raging Winds flew off into the night sky, leaving behind a troubled old man. Thank you raging winds, Weary Hawk thought to himself. He turned to where a small fire was and saw Naruto and Rose stand up off the ground and walk towards him. Now this will end tonight, my son. One of us will not live to see the sun spirit rise by dawn. As Naruto and Rose stood before him, both standing tall, he spoke in a strong tone which neither gave away the old age and weight he felt on his shoulders. Gather the team's light in the maelstrom, into the council tent, then go prepare for a great hunt and battle. Rose, you will prepare the spells that I taught you for defense inside the guest house. We finish this thread to our home tonight. As the two teens went to get things ready, Weary Hawk looked in the direction his spirit partner had disappeared with his daughter and Horus earlier that day. Hurry back, old friend, for it would be a shame to go into battle without you by my side for once. 5 miles north of the farm, 3 dogs were currently scratching at a grove of roots, whining and crying, desperately trying to get what was inside. Hey boys, what's wrong? Their owner asked. She was a tall woman who had 2 upside-down triangles upon her cheeks, marking her as an Inuzuka. Leaning down, she sniffed the area hidden by the roots and smelled 3 different scents from 3 different birds. What the hell? She asked as she peeked closer. She was stopped by a hand on her shoulders. Wait, Inuzuka-san, before you get any closer. An old man's voice told her. She looked at the old man whose body was covered mostly in bandages. As you wish, Counselor Sama. The old man looked towards the darkness and spoke to it. If I was to say, I am a traveler from the east seeking that which is lost. The young woman looked towards the bandaged man as though he had lost his mind until a voice was heard from within the roots. I would reply, I am a warrior from the west, it is I for whom you seek.
That's all for now. If you want to see next part, then please like this video and subscribe my channel. Thank you.